Chapter 1484. If Taoist Grand Primordium is defeated, I'll use a spatial escape technique to bring him to a safe place. You have to hold back Prince Spring Rain and the others. Ghost Wolf's eyes twitched as he spoke. It's bad that you chose this teleportation array. Very bad. Wu Shujian did not respond, feeling extremely regretful. He did not expect the Ruins Emperor's Palace and 100 Moons Academy to react so quickly. He and Jiang Tian had been blocked by Yan Hua the moment they appeared. If it were not so fast, he could still inform his family to hide through the Below World. Now that they were blocked, there was no way the Ruins Emperor's Palace would let his family go. Senior, don't worry. We will hold them back. Long Shengnan's fighting spirit surged as her eyes were resolute. Wu Shujian, it's useless even if you surrender now. I've been one of the 9 guards of the Ruins Emperor's Palace for so many years. How can I not know how they do things? Ghost Wolf urged. They would rather kill 1 billion innocents than let a single one go. Since you have the intention to rebel, they will eliminate you from the roots, leaving no one alive. If you want to protect your family, the only way is to hold them back and kill them all. We cannot let the news of your surrender spread to the ruins of immortality and the fertile earth world. I got it. You're so annoying. Wu Shujian huffed angrily. At that moment, he realized that Qing Aojuan and the other peerless geniuses were already looking at him with ill intentions, as though he was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. They were communicating with their divine senses, exchanging thousands of words in an instant. And at that moment, Prince Spring Rain had already made his move. Blood dyed the sky. Within a 10-mile radius, the crystalline snowflakes reflected a gorgeous blood-red light, as though they were carved from agate. The north wind whistled. On the continuous mountain range, the snow and ice that were dozens of meters deep disintegrated inch by inch as if they were swept by a peerless heavenly sword. Huge gullies appeared one after another, revealing the dark brown mountain rocks in the depths. Even the sturdy mountain rocks had terrifying marks on them. Prince Spring Rain raised his jade-white finger and pointed in the air. A blood-red flag fell from the sky, blocking everyone's vision. Countless resplendent blood-red beams shot out from the flag like a tide, drowning Jiang Tian. Just one beam of blood-red light could kill a golden core and severely injure a nascent soul. So powerful. With 3 types of supreme laws converging, I'm afraid this Kong Te-Chu won't be able to last more than 3 flicks of his fingers. Once Kong Te-Chu dies, we will immediately swarm forward and capture the 2 traitors, Wu Shujian and Ghost Wolf. The Ruins Emperor's Palace and the Academy will definitely reward us handsomely. At this time, Qing Aojuan and the others were shocked beyond words. Then, they rubbed their palms together and stared maliciously at Ghost Wolf and Wu Shujian, overflowing with killing intent. Prince Chunyu wanted to make a name for himself by killing the bandit leader Kong Te-Chu, so they wouldn't have a chance to snatch the beauty. However, Ghost Wolf and Wu Shujian had already become food on their plates. At this moment, a dazzling golden saber light, like the sun piercing through the sky, broke through the surging blood-red light, tore through the howling north wind, and pierced through the iron and blood flag. In the next moment, it arrived at Prince Spring Rain's neck. What? Prince Chunyu was shocked. He performed the attainment formula of the art of the 9 heavens and retreated 100 miles as fast as a flash of light. The saber light slashed across the place where he had been standing a moment ago, destroying the space and turning it into a chaotic hole. At this moment, the space behind him was silently torn open. A figure appeared, and the gunmetal divine saber slashed out again like mercury flowing down the ground. Prince Spring Rain turned pale with fright. He didn't expect Jiang Tian's speed to be so fast. He was like a maggot in a tarsal bone. The iron and blood flag in the sky covered him, sweeping him up and tearing through the air. Just as the flag swept Prince Spring Rain up, Jiang Tian changed his move. He pointed out a finger, and beams of dazzling and sharp sword light pierced towards Prince Spring Rain. However, these dazzling sword lights were crushed and broken by the north wind law created by the iron blood flag. Then, the flag successfully picked up Prince Spring Rain and flew toward the battleship. Jiang Tian's sword light was formed by the art of gunmetal, but it was crushed. Even if Jiang Tian didn't use his full strength, it was enough to show the brilliance of Prince Spring Rain's art of North Wind. The iron and blood flag brought Prince Spring Rain to the warship 100 miles away. It was so fast that even nascent soul heavenly lords couldn't catch it with their eyes and immortal senses. Jiang Tian's Kunpeng was already extremely fast. However, Prince Chun Yu's Xingzi heavenly art was also a secret technique of the 100 Moons Academy. Coupled with the North Wind Law, it was able to break through space, so its speed didn't slow down by much. Many of the prodigies on the God of War list cheered. As expected of the headmaster's personal disciple. Even Ghost Wolf, who had the Dark Crow's bloodline, was shocked. Lin Bing Do Xia Jie Shen Lai Qian. Attainment. The 9 most powerful heavenly arts of the Ruins Emperor's lineage. This attainment heavenly art is the limit of speed in the world. It's indeed extraordinary. As soon as the iron and blood flag landed, it immediately unfurled. Countless small flying swords flew out of the iron and blood flag. They became bigger in the wind and pierced towards Jiang Tian, who was chasing after him. Jiang Tian raised his hand and a giant Suzaku wing appeared behind him. It carried an extremely terrifying heat and swept towards the thousands of flying swords like a heavenly blade. Clanging sounds rang out incessantly as those flying swords were struck and melted by the vermilion bird fire wing. In the blink of an eye, they transformed into a treasured sword that flowed like liquid metal and fell into Jiang Tian's hand. Jiang Tian sent the sword into the sky-devouring demon gourd. He then took out an incense stick from the gourd and blew on it, lighting it up. The incense stick gave out green smoke and flew towards the iron and blood flag, inserting itself into the hole. Prince Spring Rain, now you know my laws, right? Jiang Tian said calmly. Take this incense stick first. On this day next year, I'll pay respects to your grave. The iron and blood flag slowly dissipated. That was the appearance of the dissipation of laws, revealing Prince Spring Rain. However, he had already been burnt to a crisp. Even his body and nascent soul had lost their vitality. The entire place was dead silent. No one could make a single sound. The atmosphere was so oppressive that it was suffocating. Ghost Wolf, Wu Shujian, Long Xingnan, and Fairy Yao Yu were still in shock. Even the guests from the Ruins Emperor's Palace and the geniuses on the God of War list were still in shock. It was just one move. Ghost Wolf's face was as pale as paper. He didn't even notice when Jiang Tian killed him. The shock in his heart was imaginable. He killed Prince Spring Rain, a mid-stage nascent soul cultivator, with just one move. Prince Spring Rain cultivated soul formation level laws. His nascent soul was comparable to an ordinary soul formation cultivator. Prince Spring Rain is dead. Qing Aojuan, Luo Changsheng, Li Huaishan, and the other geniuses widened their eyes. Their voices were trembling in disbelief. Prince Spring Rain might not be the strongest among the 18 generations of the Ruins Emperor's royal family, but he was definitely the most talented. Otherwise, he wouldn't have contacted 100 Moon Academy on behalf of the Ruins Emperor's Palace. Prince Qiu Ming and Prince Xiahe were extremely talented, but one of them contacted the Golden Crow and the other 9 guards, while the other contacted Sky Palace. Their positions weren't as important as his. One had to know that all the laws and great Daos in the world originated from 100 Moon Academy. The princes who contacted 100 Moon Academy all eventually became the Emperor of the Ruins Emperor's Palace. You killed a prince. You killed Prince Spring Rain. Suddenly, the black-faced maidservant standing at the bow of the ship trembled as she shouted. Blood spurted out from the corner of her mouth. The great Liang dragon sparrow sword in her hand shattered into countless pieces. The fragments flew in the air like silver butterflies before landing on the ground. Only then did everyone realize what had happened. The maidservant named Jiang Enai, who had been praised by the sword god of the ruins emperor's palace as having a sword intent as boundless as the ruins emperor's imperial concubine, was actually the soul formation realm maidservant of the western Liang world's princess Taiping, who had been suppressed by the ruins of immortality. She had also rushed to Prince Spring Rain's rescue. Even her quasi-Dao artifact, the great Liang dragon sparrow sword, had expended all her dermic powers and shattered. However, it didn't change the fact that Prince Spring Rain had been killed. Chapter 1485. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Jiang and I, Yan Hua, right? If I don't kill him, am I supposed to let myself be killed? Don't even think about finding his divine soul. I've always been a ruthless person. Prince Chun Yu's soul has already been destroyed. Boom! The air trembled. A young man in an old black robe and a strange hat walked out of the battleship. His eyes were as sharp as knives. The power of a soul formation overlord spread out, crushing and annihilating everything. Kang Te-chu, how dare you? You even dare to kill a prince? Yan Huan's eyebrows twitched as he shouted angrily. Senior. Grand Chancellor. At that moment, Cheng Aojuan, Luo Changshan, and many other geniuses showed respect and fear. They bowed deeply with their fists clasped, showing the highest respect. Yan Hua was extremely talented and had a brilliant record. Hundreds of years ago, he had reached the nascent soul level when he was only in his 50s. He was the top of the God of War list of his generation and shocked the world. In the Battle of Verdant Canyon, he had once killed dozens of nascent soul overlords from the Hell Assassin dynasty who were rebelling against the ruins of immortality with a long sword. He was born in the remote grassland. It was his outstanding performance that made the headmaster exclaim that everyone can become a talent. He set the standard for the academy to educate everyone regardless of background. From then on, the 100 Moon Academy and the Emperor of Ruins Palace began to select talents and geniuses from the lower world to be trained in the 100 Moon Academy. Later, he took up a teaching position in the 100 Moon Academy. He had once touched 10 kinds of laws and successfully mastered 4, which gave the headmaster great inspiration. They worked together to create the Dian Tao Law. With this Tao Law, one could stimulate one's potential and be completely enlightened. One could control billions of laws and be infinitely close to the Great Way, greatly increasing the chances of reaching the nascent soul formation level. What's the big deal about killing a prince? There's nothing in this world that I don't dare to kill. I'll kill anyone who stands in my way. Including the Emperor of Ruins. Jiang Tian's face was calm as he laughed mockingly. You're courting death. Yan Hua roared and unleashed his power with Jiang and I. At the same time, they rushed toward Jiang Tian. Fellow Taoist Grand Primordium, retreat first. Ghost Wolf and Long Shengnan rushed forward at the same time, blocking the two. Fight. Kill the fuck. Nothing more. At first, Wu Shujian revealed a look of deep fear. He took 3 steps back until he was 30 miles away. In the end, he stomped his foot and gritted his teeth. When the absolute beginning senior comes to the fertile earth world, remember to inform the Wu family to hide. Don't let them find us. Looks like we can only fight. Fairy Yao Yu shouted and waved her hand. A red silk appeared in her hand. She wanted to help as well. Don't worry, none of them will be able to leave. At this moment, Jiang Tian summoned the absolute heaven sword and roared. No! The weapon in his hand surpasses a Dao item. Retreat. Yan Hua's heart skipped a beat when she felt a terrifying aura erupting like a tidal wave. She immediately took a step back and turned around to return to the warship. The other geniuses, including Jiang and I, flew onto the battleship. Yan Hua shouted, Wu Shujian, you were once my disciple. Get on the battleship now. I can stop Kang Te-chu. Grand Chancellor. Wu Shujian knelt on the snow and bowed. After today, Grand Chancellor Yan no longer has me as a disciple. I thank you for your kindness. If we meet again in the future, I'm afraid we'll have to fight. There's no need to worry about your family head. I'll let the fertile earth world capture them, but I won't kill them. Yan Hua was stunned. She suddenly pulled out her sword, cut off her sleeve and threw it into the snow. She sighed and said, "This is the last thing I can do for you." The battleship left quickly. On the battleship, Cheng Aojuan asked carefully, "Grand Chancellor, Wu Shujian." Yan Huan's face was dark. He looked at his empty sleeve and a cold pain seemed to come from his arm. It was as if his arm had been cut off. The pain was heart-wrenching. He closed his eyes and suddenly opened them again. He said softly, "Wu Shujian wants to walk his own path. However, this path is not to walk with us but to go in the opposite direction. I thought he would be like all of you and become the right-hand man of the ruins emperor and the headmaster. I didn't expect that. When we meet him in the future, we'll have to fight him to the death and show no mercy. Although he entered Dao with the sword and had a demonic barrier, I think he has broken through a lot of it. In the future, he will have a fearless heart and his abilities will be stronger. He might even surpass all of you. His achievements in the future will be extraordinary." Cheng Aojuan, Li Huaishan and the rest were in disbelief. Wu Shujian was originally ranked 20th on the God of War list. His talent and abilities were far inferior to theirs. However, he could break through his demonic barrier and soar into the sky, leaving them behind. "Kang Teichu wants to invade this world. What should we do? Should we summon the elites of the academy to fight them, or?" Cheng Aojuan asked. "Retreat." Yan Hua's expression was unprecedentedly solemn. He has a peerless sword that surpasses a Dao weapon. Its lethality can severely injure a soul formation cultivator. We can't stop him. Surpasses a Dao weapon. Cheng Aojuan didn't panic. Instead, he quickly found Jiang Tian's loophole. He said, "Kang Teichu is a nascent soul cultivator and a half-soul formation cultivator. However, even a half-soul formation cultivator would suffer a certain amount of backlash if he uses a Dao weapon, not to mention someone stronger. That also means he can't fight against multiple soul formation cultivators." "You're right." A look of admiration appeared on Yan Hua's face. "Such a weapon shouldn't belong to our dimension. It must have come from a more advanced civilization. I heard that he was indeed so tired that he vomited blood and was seriously injured when he killed Xinchang above the ancient demon abyss. However, I didn't expect him to recover so quickly." There was coldness in his eyes and he said coldly, "So, my plan is to set up defenses in the Hailan world. We'll gather all the soul formation cultivators of the 100 Moon Academy and kill him in one attack. Then, won't the people in the North Sea be plunged into misery and suffering? Won't Kang Teichu do whatever he wants?" Jiang and I couldn't bear it. She glanced around and said. The Western Liang world was a dimension under the Western Desert. It was on par with the Jade Lake world and considered itself the descendant of the Queen Mother of the West. 30 years ago, it had rebelled against the ruins of deities. Later, it was easily suppressed by the disciple army, led by Prince Chunyu. Jiang Ni's father and brother died in the war. Jiang and I became the princess of a subjugated country and became Prince Chunyu's prisoner. However, she had been abused and loved by Prince Spring Rain for too long. She had gradually become a hostage, and had long forgotten about revenge. It's inevitable that people will die in war. Yan Hua put on a weathered expression and said, "We're retreating today because we want to make great strides forward in the future. There aren't any spiritual herbs or spiritual medicines in this savage land. What can Jiang Taichu do?" Chapter 1486. Whoosh! 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 Jiang Tian turned into a rainbow that pierced through the sky like a few supersonic fighter jets. He tore through the wind and snow, making a loud roar as he advanced towards the Xianming Grotto heaven. "Aren't we going after them?" Yao Yu Fairy was puzzled. "No." Jiang Tian didn't stop and said indifferently, he said calmly, "There are 2 soul formation cultivators. It's not that easy to kill them. Even if we can kill them, it'll be a great burden on me. They'll guard against them, and we'll kill them. It's not the time for the final battle yet. Everyone is accumulating their strength. What city is this? Jiang Tian suddenly stopped and asked. It was a huge city with a radius of 100 miles. It was built on top of glaciers and mountains as if it was floating in the clouds. It was still 1,000 miles away, but it was already in sight. In the howling wind and snow, the snow-covered buildings were majestic and as stable as rocks. The wide streets were full of traffic. Outside the city, there were super battleships patrolling the sky like a flood of steel. There were also peerless ferocious birds flying in the lead clouds, letting out whistling sounds. It was a combination of technology and cultivation. Winterfell. Long Xingnan was very familiar with this world. She quickly bowed and reported, the top 3 cities in this world are controlled by the Juefeng family. The Juefeng family is proficient in cold wind cultivation arts and is very powerful. They are also relatives of the emperor. A daughter of the Juefeng family once married a descendant of the Ruins Emperor. Winterfell is supported by the Ruins Emperor's palace and is also a very large and loyal force. Although there hasn't been a nascent soul heavenly lord like the North Sea Saber Emperor, there are at least dozens of Golden Core heavenly lords. Ghost Wolf added from the side. Oh! The roots of the Ruins Emperor's palace? We have to destroy them. Jiang Tian laughed sinisterly. His body flashed as he flew towards Winterfell. At the same time, in the meeting hall of the City Lord Mansion in Winterfell. It was dazzling and majestic. Inside the palace, there was an everlasting lamp burning. Among them was a burning bluestone. Green smoke rose in spirals and coiled around the palace, not dissipating for a long time. It was a green sandalwood stone that would release a strange fragrance when burned. It had the effect of concentrating the mind and calming the heart, and it was a necessary item for cultivation. However, the price of this item wasn't low. The fact that it could be used as fuel was sufficient to show that the owner of this place had quite the status. Inside the giant bronze cauldrons, the charcoal heads of the smokeless beasts were burning red, emitting traces of warmth, making the large meeting hall as warm as spring. On the ice throne on the high platform sat a tall girl who was about 1.7 meters tall. She was wearing a sable skin suit and looked delicate and pretty. She was the current Winterfell dungeon lord, Gale Mist. She was a genius. She was only in her 30s, but she had already reached the Golden Core perfected stage and was not far from forming the nascent soul. Many people thought that she was on par with Princess Li Qi of the Yingzhou world and Princess Ao Jiao of the Dragon Gate. Below the platform, dozens of Golden Core perfected cultivators stood respectfully. All of them looked nervous as if they were facing a formidable enemy. I heard that the demon Kang Te-Chu has already taken over the Yingzhou world. I'm afraid that he will soon encroach on the Northern Ocean world. Winterfell has to be careful. Gale Mist frowned and said worriedly. My lord, our 108 city defense arrays have been activated. They are impregnable. These city defense arrays were created by the array grandmasters of the ruins of deity and can withstand the attack of a soul formation cultivator. Even if Kang Te-Chu is here, he might not be able to open them. A general in golden heavy armor stepped forward and said confidently. This general in golden armor had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. He was tall and strong and was Gale Mist's brother, Gale Fengrue. He was already at the 7th level Golden Core level. Brother, it's not enough. You don't know how powerful Kang Te-Chu is. I heard that he killed more than 20 nascent soul heavenly lords on the 18 islands of the Dragon Gate. Even the famous North Sea Blade Emperor was killed by him with a flick of his finger. He even captured the princess of the Dragon Gate, Long Xingnan. Gale Mist looked desperate and said with red eyes. According to the secret report, a month ago, he killed 100,000 Golden Core cultivators, a few hundred nascent soul cultivators and more than 20 half-soul formation cultivators in the ancient demon abyss. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place fell into dead silence. Everyone was trembling in fear. Many of them were as pale as paper and panicked as if they had seen a demon. That's terrifying. He killed 100,000 Golden Core cultivators alone. Is he still human? He's a demon god from hell. After a while, someone exclaimed and broke the silence. Is this the day of Winterfell's destruction? A civil servant shivered in fear as he sat on the ground, tears streaming down his face. Besides, this person is extremely cruel and evil. He's infamous in the Yingzhou and Dragon Gate world. He can even stop children from crying at night. Gale Mist's eyes were filled with tears and she looked pitiful. She said with a trembling voice. I heard that he likes to tear human flesh and drink the blood of cultivators. Someone saw him devouring the flesh and essence of 100,000 golden core cultivators and a few hundred nascent soul cultivators above the ancient demon abyss and turned them into his own power. Kang Tae-chu is so cruel. He's eating his own kind. Disgusting. Despicable. He's worse than a bandit. He's a bandit among bandits. Demon. What a devil. He's a demon among demons. What kind of sin has our northern sea committed that we have to encounter such a monster, causing countless lives to be lost and suffering from the flames of war? Below the stage, countless golden core perfected cultivators sighed as if they were grieving for their parents. A while ago, Prince Chunyu brought Jiang Ni and many elites of the God of War list to the Xianming Grotto heaven in our world. They must be there to suppress Kang Tae-chu. Zhu Fengrui frowned and comforted everyone. Prince Chunyu has always been accompanied by Yan Hua, the Grand Chancellor of the Hundred Moons Academy. With their strength, they should be able to suppress Kang Tae-chu. Is that true? Everyone was overjoyed when they heard that. In their eyes, Prince Chunyu, the prodigy on the God of War list, and Grand Chancellor Yan Hua were like gods who could protect them. At this moment, a figure flew in and everyone was shocked. They released their Dharma powers and took out their Dharma treasures. They said coldly, who dares to enter the city lord residence? This is Brother Yu Linzi. Gale Mist looked at the person with tears in her eyes as if she had seen her savior. Yu Linzi. He's in the top 10 of the God of War list and the top genius of our world. Everyone looked at the person with respect. They retracted their Dharma powers and put away their Dharma treasures before kneeling on the ground. Yu Linzi. He was originally the son of a fisherman in this world. His family sold fish at the Hubu Alley in Winterfell. He was very sensible when he was young and helped out there. He was a lowly mortal. He smelled of fish and his skin was covered with fish scales. Everyone looked down on him and he was often beaten and scolded. Gale Mist was very active when she was young. She often went to his fish stall with the kitchen maids. She didn't mind that he was dirty and would even bring him delicious snacks and sweets. Don't worry. One day, I will become a hero. I will wear golden armor and step on colorful clouds to marry you. That day, Yu Linzi was 18 years old. Because his bloodline was accidentally activated, he was taken away by the cultivators of the Hundred Moons Academy who came to the lower world to select disciples. Now, seeing that Yu Linzi had really returned and that his cultivation had reached nascent soul level 3, he had become a handsome young man. Brother Yu Linzi, you're finally back. You didn't forget your promise. Gale Mist was very excited and happy. She couldn't help but jump into Yu Linzi's arms and hug him tightly. Her heart was almost drunk. Yes, Sister Lon. I said that one day, I will succeed in my studies and come back to marry you. Yu Linzi patted her frail shoulders and said in a gentle yet deep voice, don't worry. Kang Tae-chu has already attacked this world. However, don't worry. He's nothing special and there's nothing to be afraid of. I will protect you in Winterfell. This is the place where I was born and raised. I will fight to the end. Chapter 1487. In fact, he had disobeyed orders and returned. According to Yan Hua's suggestion. He was an elite genius, a paragon and monster incarnate that the Ruins Emperor valued highly. As the saying went, good steel should be used on the blade. He should definitely not die in battle to protect a few ants from the lower world. Instead, he should return to the ruins of immortality and preserve his strength. However, Yu Qilan's words convinced Yan Hua. Grand Chancellor Yan Hua, if your hometown is attacked by bandits one day and your parents and siblings are about to die, will you sit back and do nothing? Your Excellency, Yu Qilan, you disregarded your safety and kept your promise to return to protect the hometown of a beauty. That's a good story. After hearing Yu Qilan's narration, a scholarly cultivator clapped in admiration and praised. Kang Taechu only has 1 nose and 2 eyes. He doesn't have 3 heads and 6 arms. What's there to be afraid of? As long as we unite and work together, we might be able to defeat a bandit fiend like Kang Taechu. Everyone nodded in agreement. They felt that as long as Yu Qilan returned, everything would be stable. At that moment, high in the skies, suddenly, there was a burst of creepy laughter, followed by a cold voice, "Ha ha ha, who said that I have 1 nose and 2 eyes? Why can't I have 3 heads and 6 arms?" Immediately after, the voice was unruly and filled with a bandit and fiendish nature. It rumbled down like thunder and caused the sun and moon to turn upside down. The world was in chaos and everything was destroyed. The ground quaked and the palace shook as though it was about to split open on the spot. Are you guys here to die together? Then I, Kang Taechu, will fulfill your wishes. Get out here. Today, I, Kang Taechu, will send all of you to the afterlife. Kang Taechu is here. Everyone was shocked. Everyone was scared out of their wits. Zhu Fenglan hollered coldly, "Activate the city protection formation." Following her order, a series of powerful formations rumbled and activated. The city that was towering above the glacier seemed to have suddenly awakened. Layers of massive Dharma formations unfolded outside Winterfell like flowers blooming. Green light spewed and black light surged like a tide as godly beasts roared. Countless strange phenomena appeared. The splendid landscape, the grand sun, the black python swallowing the sky. Each level represented a powerful Dharma array. Bang, bang, bang. The Black Rock city of the Yingzhou world had dozens of formations and was known to be impregnable. Winterfell had more than 100 mana formations. Every single one of these arrays had been created by a top array master from the ruins of immortality, which had cost the Juefeng family countless resources. Any nascent soul cultivator would find it difficult to deal with a single layer of formation. Even if they used all of their strength, they might not be able to break it. What's more, now that there were over 100 overlapping arrays. However, Jiang Tian's expression was indifferent, and there was no joy nor sorrow in his eyes. Hundreds of formations set up by grandmasters were nothing in his eyes. He lifted his foot and was about to step into Winterfell. "Fellow Taoist, please stop." A gust of strong wind flew out of Winterfell and transformed into a black-clothed elder. The elder was tall and had a thin face. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, and his aura was like a tiger's. He was the head of the Juefeng family, Juefeng Huang. Back then, he was someone who was on par with the North Sea Saber Emperor. He was a half-step nascent soul cultivator and was not much weaker than him. At that moment, the family head said with a solemn expression, "The Juefeng family has no enmity with us. My Jufeng clan has no enmity with fellow Taoist." Why did fellow Taoist come here? Do you think my Feng clan is easy to bully? Jiang Tian said, "No enmity now, but it doesn't mean that there will be no enmity in the future. I want to kill the Ruins Emperor. The Juefeng family is a relative of the Ruins Emperor's palace. How can I be at ease? Fellow Taoist, how can I be at ease?" Juefeng Huang asked. Jiang Tian said indifferently, "I want to enter Winterfell and rest for a while. We can interact and understand each other more. When I feel at ease, I will naturally leave. Deactivate the array formation and let me in. The people of my city are poor and barren. They are like a vast pond that cannot contain a giant whale. Fellow Taoist, there is nothing you cannot do. You should choose another path." Juefeng Huang rejected him politely. He looked sincere and sincere. "My guess is indeed correct. You clearly have a backup plan by not letting me enter the city. When the experts of the ruins Emperor's Palace come again, you will probably stab me in the back. Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes. This is definitely a misunderstanding. It must be some despicable person who wants to frame my Feng family. Juefeng Huang's expression turned solemn as he said firmly. Fellow Taoist Grand Primordium is wise and far-sighted. You must not fall for the despicable person's trap and make your enemies happy. After all that talk, you still have a backup plan. Today, I want to enter the city. You have to agree whether you want to or not. You still have a choice. Announce to the world that you have severed ties with the ruins Emperor's Palace and pledge your loyalty to me. Then, I will spare your life. Jiang Tian smiled indifferently as he took a step forward. An azure gold light screen spread out beneath his feet like a path of light that led straight to Winterfell. Immediately, it triggered a reaction from the layers of array formations. Fellow Taoist, what do you mean? Are you trying to barge into my Winterfell? Juefeng Huang's expression turned cold as he said sinisterly, Kang Te-Chu, don't blame me for not reminding you. My Juefeng family has been undefeated for 10,000 years. We are deeply favored by His Majesty, the Ruins Emperor. The depth of our heritage is far beyond what a late-stage talent like you can imagine. We will not interfere in the conflict between you and the Ruins Emperor. Watching from the sidelines is already the greatest concession I can make. However, you insist that we pose a threat to you. All of this is a scheme of despicable people. They want to instigate a conflict between us so that they can reap the benefits. Having said that, he glared venomously at Ghost Wolf before retracting his gaze and saying coldly, Fellow Taoist, both of us will be safe. If not, don't blame my Juefeng family for being infuriated. When the time comes, so what if you are a soul formation cultivator? You will be pulverized. Boom. Following Juefeng Huang's words, in Winterfell, there was a surge of powerful aura. These auras were the fluctuations of formations. Each of them was extremely powerful, far beyond that of a nascent soul cultivator. The pressure caused all living beings within a 500-kilometer radius to kneel on the ground and tremble. Winterfell was densely packed with countless figures. Countless experts and killing formations were unleashed in the city, waiting for Jiang Tian's arrival. Noisy. Jiang Tian snorted and flicked his finger. Juefeng Huang's figure instantly exploded in the air. Kang Te-Chu, how dare you! A furious roar suddenly came from Winterfell. Deep in the ancestral land of the Juefeng family, Juefeng Huang, who was facing a water mirror, was livid. Although it was only one of his clones outside, for Jiang Tian to explode in front of everyone like this was undoubtedly trampling all over the face of the Feng clan's patriarch. Next, Jiang Tian took a step forward and arrived in the sky above Winterfell. His eyes shone and his aura shook the sky. The shocking battle of one man against an entire city had finally begun. Outside Winterfell, countless cultivators were watching. Not only the local sects and families of Winterfell, but the entire Northern Sea, the big families, sects, the Xianming Grotto Heaven and the North Sea Sword Emperor's bloodline all looked over. One man against an entire city. Is Kang Te-Chu really that confident that he can destroy our defensive formation? The general guarding the city, Juefeng Rui, was flustered and exasperated. Brother Yulinzi, what should we do? Juefeng Lan's beautiful face was filled with panic and her face was pale. Winterfell has a deep foundation. The divine craftsmen of the ruins of immortality have been in Winterfell for tens of thousands of years and set up countless foundations and formations. Although I don't know how this kid's cultivation has skyrocketed and he's unbelievably powerful and even killed many half-step soul formation cultivators, it won't be that easy to destroy this city. Yulinzi's face was solemn and then he said confidently, don't worry. If the city really can't stop him, I'll take you away. Kang Te-Chu won't be able to stop me. If Kang Te-Chu wants to destroy Winterfell, he'll expend a lot of resources. I'm afraid he'll use that peerless sword. By then, he'll have exhausted his old strength and hasn't recovered his new strength. It'll be the time for us to kill him. In the sky thousands of miles away, a few nascent soul elders of the Xianming Grotto heaven appeared on the leaden clouds. Their eyes were as sinister as hawks as they discussed and secretly plotted the best time to attack Jiang Tian. Kang Taichu and Winterfell will suffer great losses. By then, it'll be the best time for us to avenge the Sword Emperor. Some of the stubborn disciples among the North Sea Saber Emperor's successors were still dreaming of killing Jiang Tian and making a name for themselves. They were dreaming of being rewarded by the ruins Emperor's palace. Chapter 1488. As for Jiang Tian, who had reached the peak of Winterfell, he did not think so. He lowered his head and looked at the city that seemed to be above the clouds. His eyes were devoid of joy or sorrow. Kang Taichu, if you retreat, I won't pursue your disrespectful behavior. We will mind our own business. Otherwise, don't blame me for activating my heritage and awakening the patriarchs to show you the might of Winterfell. Absolute Wind Wilderness continued his voice transmission. You only have two options now. One is to open the gates and let me enter the city. Treat me well with good wine and meat. The other is to announce to the world that you have severed ties with the ruins emperor. Jiang Tian said calmly. Bastard. Presumptuous. Dream on. A lowly ant dares to rebel against the ruins emperor. Ignorant bandit. You don't know your place. Angry roars sounded from Winterfell. Immediately following that, a black dragon roared, a sun soared across the sky, and a nethergale howled. Jiang Tian's vision instantly turned pitch black. The world turned dark as though the sun and moon had reversed. It was chaos. There were also countless black winds that seemed to blow from the depths of the underworld. They were like blades as they danced and roared, tearing everything apart. Jiang Tian knew that this was the activation of Winterfell's defensive array. Most likely, with Winterfell as the center, a radius of hundreds of kilometers was enveloped by the array formation. Ordinary golden core cultivators would not even last a second before they were torn to shreds by the array formation's powers. However, Jiang Tian wasn't afraid at all. He stood there, emitting a golden light that spanned 30 feet. All the nethergale and blades dissipated when they came in front of him. Do you think I can't do anything to you with this tortoise shell? Jiang Tian sneered. Forget it. Today, I'll show you what a mere array formation is in front of absolute power. With that said, Jiang Tian extended his hand and grabbed at the distance. Boom! Under the shocked gazes of countless people, a huge mountain rose from the ground and flew to the sky above Winterfell. It was like a meteor falling from the heavens as it smashed down from the sky. This? Zhu Fenglan, Zhu Fengrui and other important people in the city all raised their heads in shock. 10,000 feet was equivalent to dozens of miles. It was a mountain that was dozens of miles tall, even taller than several Mount Everest. Jiang Tian's grab had uprooted several Mount Everest and then smashed them down. How terrifying was that power? How shocking was its destructive power? It was no less than an asteroid crashing into Earth. It could simply destroy the world. Boom! The massive mountain crashed into Winterfell. Immediately, numerous formations were activated. He saw the fire phoenix cry, the sword chi soar into the sky, and the black dragon swallow the sun. Under the terrifying power of the formation, the huge mountain was forcefully stopped and quickly collapsed. However, Jiang Tian wasn't done yet. With a series of low growls, Jiang Tian reached out and grabbed. The second one. The third one. The fourth one. Jiang Tian was like a god in the legends, possessing boundless divine power. As soon as he reached out his hand, a gigantic mountain weighing hundreds of millions of tons was lifted and smashed down with a rumble. In a blink, Jiang Tian had lifted over 100 mountains and Winterfell was hit more than 100 times. Bang, bang, bang. The collisions were fiercer than the previous one. Even though the Dharma array of Winterfell was said to be able to withstand hundreds of attacks from a nascent soul heavenly lord and a few from a soul formation cultivator, it couldn't withstand such a head-on collision. Jiang Tian was suppressing his opponent with brute force. He didn't talk about breaking the Dharma array or anything like that. Not even a nascent soul heavenly lord would be able to withstand the attacks of hundreds of mountains. Normal golden core cultivators would have already been crushed. The power of a heavenly lord. This is the real power of a heavenly lord. Countless onlookers were shocked. Even though golden core cultivators were said to be able to control the essence chi in a 100-mile radius. However, it would be difficult to lift a mountain that was tens of thousands of feet high. For someone like Jiang Tian, casually tossing 100 mountains to smash someone, that was even more shocking. Crackle, crackle. In the sky above Winterfell, the layers of formations were crushed by this unreasonable force. After 100 mountains, only 1/3 of the Dharma array of Winterfell was left. Phew. Just as Gale Baron and the others were about to heave a sigh of relief, Jiang Tian clenched his fist and punched from afar. The mountains before were just an appetizer. This is my real attack. When he punched, there wasn't the slightest fluctuation. But the further it went, the more powerful it became. In the end, the heavens and the mountains shook. There was only a giant fist 100 miles large left in the sky. That fist filled the universe and covered thousands of miles, as if it could crush everything. Bang! Winterfell was like an egg under a hammer. It didn't even withstand a snap of the fingers. Countless Dharma arrays were shattered. In the end, the entire ancient city was crushed like a castle on the beach. None of the cultivators in the city survived, including Gale Baron and the other important members of the Gale family. They were all reduced to dust. Seeing this scene, all the spectators were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. How is this possible? Countless creatures gaped in astonishment as they watched Winterfell disappear like a sand painting in the wind. A huge city that spanned 100 miles, dozens of Dharma array grandmasters set up Dharma arrays, and countless Feng family cultivators were reduced to dust by this attack. The ground was empty. There was only the howling of the wind and the falling snow. It was as if a deity had erased it from the world. All of Winterfell and the cultivators in it had disappeared. All that was left was a huge, towering fist print that was like a lake. Heavenly might strike, heavenly might strike. Many people murmured. Only Ghost Wolf laughed sinisterly and said disdainfully, Kong Tae-chu can even destroy the mothership of the 3 golden crows. No matter how strong Winterfell is, can it be stronger than the 3 golden crows' mothership? What a joke. What he said was true. The 3 golden crows were the personal guards of the ruins Emperor's palace and were extremely important. Just like the Jingji garrison army, Winterfell was at best a small armed force of a county city. There were only a few big cats and small cats. How could this be compared? The manpower and resources invested, the treasures expended, the array craftsmen, and the level of the array patterns and runes used could not be compared at all. However, he also understood the Gale family's stubborn resistance. Their prejudices were deeply ingrained in their bones. They were too prejudiced. Take Ghost Wolf for example. He had not fought to the end and was not driven to despair by Jiang Tian. He had always believed that Jiang Tian was just a cultivator from a peripheral planet and did not have much ability. At that moment, the descendants of the North Sea Saber Sovereign had ugly expressions. The strength that Jiang Tian had displayed was too terrifying. Winterfell was huge and dozens of golden core cultivators could not withstand the power of Jiang Tian's fist. They were just a few golden core cultivators. If they wanted to challenge Jiang Tian, it would be like moths flying into a flame. They were not enough at all. Kong Tae-chu did not use the absolute heaven sword. I'm afraid he has the strength of a soul formation cultivator. The Xianming Grotto heaven is in danger. We might not be able to defend it. The nascent soul heavenly lords of the Xianming Grotto heaven were pale and scared out of their wits. They had thought that they had overestimated Jiang Tian's strength, but when they really saw it, they realized that they were still far from it. Scorch the ground and destroy the Xianming Grotto heaven immediately. We can't leave those treasures to Kong Tae-chu. An important person of the Xianming Grotto heaven shouted with determination in his eyes. He turned around and flew towards the Xianming Grotto heaven. Chapter 1489. Don't worry. Winterfell used to be supported by the Palace of the Ruins Emperor. It won't be that simple. The Winterfell outside is just a cover. They have more resources. The master of the Xianming Grotto Heaven, an experienced nascent soul cultivator, said. Everyone was slightly stunned. Then, they saw, a few black dots flew out from the ruins of Winterfell. They were Zhu Fenghuang, Zhu Fengrui, Zhu Fenglan, and Yu Linzi. These top cultivators of the Extreme Wind clan were all in an extremely sorry state. Then, Zhu Fenglan, the beautiful Castellan, was terrified. Her hair was messy and she was bleeding. Her face was full of hatred. Jiang Tian's punch was too terrifying. Only grand perfected cultivators with superior grade golden cores comparable to the elites on the God of War roll or top overlords with many protection Dharma artifacts would have been crushed together with the other members of the Zhu Fenglan family. In fact, even with Zhu Fenglan's strength, she would not be able to take a single punch from Jiang Tian. It was only in a moment of desperation that Yu Qilin threw her 3 defensive true treasures to save her life. But even so, she was still in great pain. Countless bones and tendons were broken all over her body, and her internal organs and meridians were all heavily injured. Zhu Fenglan's clear and beautiful eyes scanned the ground. When she saw the flattened Winterfell, her eyes were almost spitting fire. Her pretty face was filled with hatred as she shouted in a delicate voice, "What's wrong?" She shouted, "Kang Te-chu, you destroyed my city and killed my family. If I don't take revenge, I won't be a man. I swear today that one day, I will tear you, Jiang Tai-chu, into thousands of pieces. I will track you down to the solar system and Earth and kill your parents, wife, and children. Not a single one will be spared." Zhu Fenglan hated Jiang Tian to the core. She gritted her teeth and almost vomited blood. Although Winterfell wasn't the real ancestral land of the Zhu Fenglan family, they had lived there for 10,000 years and the area around them was their territory. Most of the heavenly treasures were concentrated in this giant city. Countless spirit stones, medicinal pills, magical treasures, and materials were piled up like mountains. They were so vast that they could fill up an entire valley. This was the accumulation of their many years of plundering. Now, he was crushed by Jiang Tian's fist. Needless to say, there were also the 8 cultivator armies guarding the city, which made Zhu Fenglan extremely distressed. The reason why the Extreme Wind family was able to occupy Winterfell, the 3rd largest city in this world, was because even the North Sea Saber monarch did not dare to slight them. The cultivator army was made up of dozens of golden core cultivators and tens of thousands of foundation establishment cultivators. When they worked together, they were extremely powerful. Even a nascent soul heavenly lord would have to avoid them. All those years ago, a single army had once swept through the northern sea world, and it caused numerous sects and clans to tremble with uneasiness. So how formidable were the 8 armies that guarded the city? It was simply plowing through the courtyard and sweeping through the acupoints, unrivaled. Other than the elites on the God of War roll in the mortal world, who also had a supreme grade true artifact or a quasi-Dao artifact, or a real nascent soul heavenly lord, no one could stop the Extreme Wind family. But just then, the 8 armies were crushed by Jiang Tian's fist before they could even fly into the sky and display their power. How could Zhu Fenglan not be angry? "Kang Te-chu, you're vicious." Yu Linzi also shouted as he protected Zhu Fenglan. "Kang Te-chu will never be able to live under the same sky as you." Zhu Fenghuang was so furious that he almost vomited blood. "We won't stop until we're dead. I'll kill my way to your ancestral land, bathe thousands of miles in blood, and kill 1 billion people. Only then can I take revenge." Zhu Fengrui gritted his teeth and his golden armor let out rays of golden light. The bronze spear in his hand was old and dull, but it was intimidating, as if an ancient dragon were about to wake up. This was a superior grade true artifact, which was rare in a level 3 world like the North Sea. It could suppress a world. "Long Xingnan, Ghost Wolf, Wu Shujian, it's time for you to show your real skills. Kill them." Jiang Tian's eyes turned cold. His reverse scale had been touched, and he berated sternly. Yes. Gui Lang and Wu Shujian shouted loudly. Their bodies moved like lightning, each displaying their own unique skills, and rushed towards the remaining warriors of the Zhu Feng clan. They were all experienced warriors and knew the meaning of Jiang Tian's action. Letting them kill the Ruins Emperor's men was equivalent to admitting their allegiance. From then on, there was no way out and there was no possibility of returning to the ruins of deity. Only then could Jiang Tian let them go. Don't you dare hurt our city lord and family head. The Winterfell 8 horsemen are here. At this time, 8 figures rose from the ruins and blocked in front of Ghost Wolf, Wu Shujian, and Long Xingnan. Each of them was a golden core perfected cultivator and their dharma forms rose. They were the generals of the 8 garrisons. They had not died to Jiang Tian's punch and had only been severely injured. They had consumed pills to recover from their injuries. Now that they had recovered their combat strength, they soared into the clouds. The 8 garrisons of Winterfell were all extraordinarily mighty. They rode huge white condors with huge wings that blotted out the sky. They were about 1,000 feet long and looked like they were carved from white jade. They were snow-white and crystalline. The talons of the condors were like steel hooks and their feathers were like blades. Their gazes were cold and sharp, making them look extremely majestic. They were called snow condors and were primordial species that only existed in the North Sea. They were not afraid of the cold and were not even afraid of the cold winds of hell. They were extremely fast and had vigorous vitality. The snow condors they rode had been carefully nurtured. They usually ate pills for food and drank from spirit spring water. Countless natural treasures were used to awaken their intelligence and stimulate their cultivation. Each one of them had strength that matched a golden core perfected cultivator. Ghost Wolf Guard Captain, are you really going to be so obstinate as to kill the Ruins Emperor's descendants in public and defy the heavenly rules? No matter how strong you are, there will come a day when you are brought to justice by the Ruins Emperor's palace. A garrison general shouted as he rode a snow condor. His lifeblood was exuberant as black armor covered his slender and muscular body. He wielded a huge broadsword with both hands as his killing intent tore through the heavens. He was filled with a sense of oppression. Everyone was alarmed. The garrison general had a half-step nascent soul cultivation level. He was dozens of times stronger than many of the sect masters and family patriarchs of this world. These garrison generals had extraordinary backgrounds and were actually peerless cultivators of the 9 guards of the Ruins Emperor's palace. They were not far from becoming divine generals. As they had violated the heavenly rules and committed serious crimes, they were supposed to be struck by 10,000 bolts of lightning tribulation. Their bodies and souls would be destroyed, and their entire family would be wiped out. Later, Prince Chiu Ming pleaded on their behalf and the Ruins Emperor's palace showed them mercy. Only then were they banished from the ruins of immortality and sent to a desolate land in the lower world to atone for their crimes. However, they were definitely not weak. In fact, they were very strong, surpassing many sect masters and realm lords. After all, Winterfell was a fortress built by the Ruins Emperor's palace. It was representative. Pwah! To everyone's surprise, Ghost Wolf did not stop. His eyes were sinister as his killing intent boiled. He tore through space with the void piercer in hand and vanished from his spot. The next moment, he traversed 5 kilometers of the void and appeared beside the garrison general. He was faster than lightning. Without a word, he sliced through the void with the void piercer, causing cracks to appear in space. The garrison general was cleaved apart as blood splattered, dyeing the sky red. Even his snow condor mount did not have a chance to escape as it was torn to shreds by the spatial cracks. At that moment, everyone felt their heads explode. Even the peerless cultivators sent by the Ruins Emperor's palace to guard the lower realm had been killed by Ghost Wolf without mercy. The war had reached its climax and it was a life-and-death struggle. There was no possibility of peace talks. Jiang Tian and company acted without any scruples. It was not as simple as snatching resources or raising their cultivation levels. Instead, they resisted for the sake of resistance and slaughter. They wanted to flatten all the factions of the Ruins Emperor. They were resolute, and austere. They were as sharp as the Void Piercer as they destroyed everything. Eighth brother. The other 7 garrison generals of Winterfell roared. Their eyes were red as they were enraged. They guarded Winterfell together with Eighth brother and often sparred with each other. They worked together to slay enemies and demons, leaving their backs to each other. Their relationship was like that of brothers. Whoosh! 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 They commanded the snow condors to fly in the air. All kinds of Dharma forms erupted. Flames, ice, black smoke, golden light, flying swords, and long spears filled the air and intertwined. Their momentum was earth-shattering, shaking the sun and the moon. Chapter 1490. Humph. Child's play. You didn't even become the divine general of the 9 guards of the Ruins Emperor's palace. You were only my subordinates. How dare you? Ghost Wolf grunted. He was indeed one of the top 3 assassins in the Ruins of Immortality. He was proficient in the art of assassination. Even when facing 7 Golden Core Grand Perfected Cultivators and a half-heavenly lord, he was still able to move like a butterfly. After the first slash had wiped out one of the Guardian Generals, the second slash had already pierced through the air. It was faster and fiercer than the 7 Guardian Generals. When they released their Dharma forms, his air-piercing blade was already less than half a foot away from the 7th Guardian General's neck. The Ghost Wolf's assassination technique was not to be underestimated. Back then, he had successfully killed a semi-god realm cultivator. And in the sky above the ancient demon abyss, he had seen Jiang Tian use the Kunpeng extreme speed nomological laws during his battle with Jiang Tian. Over the past 2 days, Jiang Tian had casually given him some pointers, and he had reached the limit. He had obtained a great opportunity, and his strength had increased by 3 to 5 times. Many of the Dharma laws that Jiang Tian had mastered were God-level Dharma laws. They were applicable everywhere and were close to the Great Tao. They were extraordinary and terrifying. Ah! Brothers, save me! Old 7 screamed. His face was as pale as paper. He felt as if he had been entangled by a giant snake and couldn't break free. In a flash, many Dharma artifacts and runes on his body were activated. They shone brightly like the sun in the sky, trying to block an attack. But it was too late. Poof! The Void Piercer pierced through the air, and black spatial cracks spread out in all directions with the tip of the blade as the center, like tentacles dancing in the air. Old 7's head was the first to be hit. It exploded like a rotten watermelon that had been hit by a 1,000-pound hammer and almost splashed dozens of meters away. Ghost Wolf killed 1 person with each slash. He didn't meet any decent resistance. He only attacked twice and the 2 guards of Winterfell died on the spot. Blood was everywhere and it was extremely tragic. Before dying, the 7th Guardian General's face was filled with despair and unwillingness, as well as endless fear. He had actually been killed by Ghost Wolf's spatial blade technique, and his corpse fell onto the icy snowy ground. Fresh blood gushed out, but in the blink of an eye, it was frozen by the bone-chilling cold wind. The scarlet and dazzling blood was like a crystal, extremely frightening. Screech! The 7th General was killed, and blood splattered everywhere. His mount, the Snow Eagle, danced in the air. Its enormous wings were like heavenly blades as they swept towards the Ghost Wolf. Pooh! Blood splattered everywhere, and the jade-white feathers withered and fluttered in the wind. Ghost Wolf had chopped off its skull with his blade. Blood gushed out of its neck like a fountain, and the white bones were horrifying. The mountain-like corpse fell on the ground, and its blood flowed like a small river. Ah! Ghost Wolf, you are so ruthless. He had completely betrayed the wise, great, and invincible Ruins Emperor. Damn you! 7th brother. The remaining guards roared angrily. They were both shocked and furious as they attacked one after another. All sorts of Dharma artifacts attacked the Ghost Wolf together. They were like meteorites that fell from the sky. They shone brightly as they tore through the sky with terrifying might. The Juefeng family was a relative of the royal family and was related to Prince Chiu Ming's lineage. Furthermore, they had been saved by Prince Chiu Ming on their behalf. If the Juefeng family was wiped out, they would be too ashamed to face Prince Chiu Ming. Kill! 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 Ghost Wolf must not be left alive. Miss Juefeng Lan, young Master Yulinzi, leave quickly. The guards roared angrily as their eyes turned red. However, the ghost wolf had already escaped into the void and temporarily vanished. Everyone expected that if it were to erupt again, there would probably be experts among the guards that would perish. Do you think I, a genius ranked 20th on the God of War roll, don't exist? Wu Shujian was burning with anxiety as he felt immense pressure. The ghost wolf was too powerful, and his attacks were too fast. If he waited any longer, Wu Shujian would not be able to achieve anything. How was he to gain Jiang Tian's trust? Kill! With a stern bellow, he immediately unleashed his power. Thousands of silver fish-like flying swords erupted from his back, causing the entire world to tremble. It interfered with the laws and destroyed the Dharma-characteristic Dharma artifacts of the 6 guards. All of a sudden, countless tiny magic swords gathered and reassembled, forming a huge flying sword that was 30 meters long. It shot into the air and streaked across the sky like an antelope's horn, leaving no trace behind. It swept past the 6 generals. With a chila sound, the heavens trembled, and the stars in the sky seemed like they were about to be annihilated. Sword energy rushed into the heavens, and sword light illuminated the sky. A guard general was hacked in half at the waist, and even his golden core was destroyed. He instantly exploded, and even his soul was destroyed. The other 2 guards were severely injured. Terrifying sword wounds covered their entire bodies, like children opening their mouths, revealing their organs and broken bones. They couldn't be healed in a short time because Wu Shujian was also a nascent soul cultivator and his attacks involved the laws. They were just golden core cultivators and couldn't destroy the laws. Immediately after, Ghost Wolf also escaped from the space. Gaining the upper hand, he did not show any mercy and stabbed out with his blade. The sun and moon were in chaos, the heavens and the earth were hanging upside down, and space shattered like glass. The bodies of the 2 guards that were originally heavily injured by Wu Shujian had been torn apart, their intestines pierced through, and they died extremely miserably. Kang Te-chu, what kind of magic potion did you feed them to make the ghost wolf and Wu Shujian so loyal to you? Seeing more than half of his brothers die in the blink of an eye, the first guard felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. He shouted loudly and hated Jiang Tian so much that he gritted his teeth. Kang Te-chu was too powerful. Furthermore, Wu Shujian and the ghost wolf under him were not weak either. One was a half-step soul formation cultivator who was proficient in assassination and the other was a nascent soul sword cultivator. They each had their own strengths and each of them could easily kill them. This is the loyalty of the people. The ruins emperor you follow is trash. You're blindly loyal. You're used to being slaves and you're even thinking for your master. Today, I'll kill you slaves until you despair. At that moment, Jiang Tian didn't attack. He just watched with a mocking smile, like a cat playing with a mouse. Kang Te-chu, you're cruel and bloodthirsty. You've stirred up a storm of blood time and time again. Even if I kill you, a devil bandit, 10,000 times, it won't be enough to appease the hatred in my heart. I'll extract your soul and refine it with raging inferno and underworld wind every day. I'll let you taste the pain of purgatory. At that moment, seeing the ghost wolf and Wu Shujian going on a killing spree, Zhu Fenglan shouted. Her beautiful eyes were bloodshot and her voluptuous chest heaved up and down violently. Her curvaceous body rippled with alluring waves. She was very beautiful and tall. Her long legs were straight and fit. Even the leg models on Earth would feel so inferior that they would bang their heads against the wall. This place was at the border of Southern Gate 2 stars. The illumination was very weak. Her skin was as white as snow and extremely delicate. It was as white as ivory without any blemishes. Even her pores couldn't be seen. After 10,000 years of extreme cold, the people here usually had high noses and deep eyes. Their eyeballs were also blue like gemstones. Zhu Fenglan was a typical example. She looked very much like Reba. The tip of her nose was straight and she had an exotic charm. At that moment, Yu Linzi had already escorted her to a secret transportation array 100 li away. This was a passageway-level transportation array. It was set up by Her Highness Qiu Ming. Although the scale was small and could only transport 3 to 5 people at a time, it was enough to transport the Zhu Fenglan clan to the Below Sea world. They would be safe there. Her hatred for Jiang Tian was as deep as the ocean. Killing Jiang Tian wouldn't be enough to appease her hatred. Only by torturing and humiliating him with the cruelest methods to deal with cultivators could she be appeased. You don't have a chance. You can't escape. A delicate shout was heard. Long Xingnan had already arrived. She used the 9 Dragons Emperor technique and her killing intent was awe-inspiring. 9 vital chi flood dragons circled around her delicate body. Suddenly, they tore through space and rushed over. Chapter 1491. Long Xingnan, you are an elite of the Dragon Clan and an important subject of the Ruins Emperor. You owe the Ruins Emperor's palace a great debt of gratitude. Yet, you are acting as the villain's accomplice by siding with a bandit like Kang Teichu. Foolish. Zhu Fenglan bellowed as she conjured seals with both hands, casting a cultivation technique that was passed down from her ancestors. Dark winds billowed as though they came from hell. The coldness permeated the void for 5 kilometers as she engaged in battle with Long Xingnan. Flood Dragon Tail Whip. Zhu Fenglan was only at the perfected Golden Core realm. How could she be the match of the half-step nascent soul Long Xingnan? She was sent flying by a flood dragon's gigantic tail. In midair, her petite body emitted explosive cracking sounds as her bones and tendons snapped. Blood spewed out of her mouth as she crashed into the icy lands 1,000 meters away. Long Xingnan's attack was too fast. Even Yu Linzi failed to block it. I only hate myself for being blindly loyal and siding with Senior Kang Teichu too late. The Ruins Emperor is harsh and merciless, treating lower realm cultivators like ants. He does not know that water can carry a boat, but it can also sink it. However, he does not know that if a ruler treats his subjects as weeds, his subjects will treat him as an enemy. He, the Ruins Emperor, is a tyrant. He deserves death. Gigantic dragons coiled around Long Xingnan's petite body as dragon aura filled the void for 5 kilometers. She was like an empress that looked down on the world. She was high and mighty and feared no one. At that moment, the demonic barrier in her heart had dissipated. She did not submit to the Ruins Emperor, nor was she a slave. Her killing intent surged as she reigned supreme. She was invincible and fearless. From today onwards, she would pursue her own path. Only then could she reveal the true might of the 9 Dragons Emperor technique. Only then could she demonstrate the overwhelming bearing of a successor of the Dragon Clan. Long Xingnan, how dare you disrespect the Ruins Emperor? How audacious of you! Don't you know the principle that all lands under the heavens belong to the Emperor? All subjects under the heavens belong to the Emperor. If a ruler wants a subject to die, a subject must die. You deserve death for speaking such ironic words. Yu Linzi was enraged as his handsome face turned steely. He bellowed sternly as he used a mystic technique taught by the 100 Moons Academy to attack Long Xingnan. A person like him came from a humble background. If he hadn't been promoted by the 100 Moons Academy, he might have been a fishmonger that everyone trampled on and would never be able to make a comeback. As someone with vested interests, he could not see the bigger picture. In his mind, everything in the Ruins of Immortality was reasonable. The Ruins Emperor was a perfect and omnipotent true god. He needed to be protected and no one was to blaspheme or offend him. With a flick of his hand, a heavenly halberd appeared in his hand. A layer of purple gold armor appeared on his body. The nascent soul realm Qilin demon beast beneath him also had dense green scales. They rushed down together like a demon god descending to the mortal world. Tens of thousands of soldiers parted as they charged towards Long Xingnan. This great halberd was about 100 zhang long and extremely heavy. It was a top-grade true treasure, and it was like a mountain. The green halberd shaft and the snow-white halberd blade tore apart the heavens, creating a terrifying whistling sound. Figures were everywhere, as if there was a group of gods and devils roaring, following by the great halberd's side. They hacked through the world, smashing through all obstructions, terrifying beyond compare. This was the soul-absorbing halberd, which could absorb divine souls. The divine souls of the cultivators and demons killed by it would be absorbed into it and become part of its power. It would continue to increase, and when used, it would create a great interference between soul energy and dharma power. Ghost Wolf, Wu Shujian, you're too slow. Jiang Tian shouted in a low voice, revealing a somewhat displeased expression. What did he say? You call that slow? Beside him, countless cultivators were shocked when they heard this. In just a few seconds, Ghost Wolf and Wu Shujian had already killed 6 golden core cultivators and half a step away from the nascent soul realm. That was too slow. Whether it's fast or slow depends on who you're compared to. Only Yao Yu Fairy had a bitter smile on her face. She looked at Jiang Tian with respect and love. On the ancient demon abyss, Jiang Tian had a hard time killing half-soul formation cultivators, but killing nascent soul heavenly lords was as easy as slaughtering chickens. As for golden core cultivators, he could kill hundreds of them with a wave of his hand. The 8 generals here didn't even have a nascent soul cultivator. They were only golden core cultivators or half a step away from the nascent soul realm, but Ghost Wolf and Wu Shujian had been killing for a long time. Compared to Jiang Tian, they were simply worlds apart. Shujian, hurry up. Master is getting impatient. You're going to be beaten later. Ghost Wolf roared. His saber was like a shadow floating in the air, breaking through the void and piercing through the heart of one of the guards. With a shake of the strange saber, the space was torn apart, and the guard's golden core exploded. Kill! Wu Shujian was also very anxious. He even burned his nascent soul. The silver sword aura rolled out like tides and minced the remaining generals into pieces. Clusters of bloody mist exploded in the sky, and a rain of flesh rained down. All the gold cores exploded into countless pieces like a nuclear explosion, shaking the earth and the sky. I wonder how Long Xingnan is doing. By then, the 8 generals had been killed by the 2 of them. The 2 of them flew to the teleport array 100 miles away without saying a word. Yu Linzi was the most powerful among them. At the same time, they scanned with their immortal will and saw a shocking scene. Kill. Surrender or die. You only have 2 choices. Although Long Xingnan's 9 Dragons Emperor art was powerful, Yu Linzi was one of the top 5 elites on the God of War list after all. He had already entered the mid-stage nascent soul realm. Long Xingnan was immediately pushed back. Her body was covered in blood and her armor was broken. She was knocked away again and again, but she wasn't afraid. She jumped up again and attacked. Crazy woman, go to hell. Yu Linzi and Zhu Fenglan's family were entangled by Long Xingnan. They couldn't escape even with the teleportation array. The 4 of them were anxious and worked together to kill Long Xingnan. Yu Linzi's halberd swept across the sky and used all his strength to kill Long Xingnan quickly. Bitch, you colluded with bandits and betrayed the ruins Emperor's palace. Even if you die 100 times, you won't be able to forgive your sins. You should be exiled to the 9 Nether Death Star and repent for the rest of your life. The other 3 people from the Zhu Fenglan family also roared and attacked with all their might. Suddenly, mystic techniques and dharma artifacts flew across the sky like meteorites or the wind from hell. Every one of them was extremely powerful and could easily kill golden cores and severely injure nascent soul realm cultivators. They all rushed towards Long Xingnan. Stubborn. I'll send you to heaven. Yu Linzi also roared in anger. He roared cruelly and his killing intent surged. The halberd descended from the sky and pierced through the clouds, destroying everything as it went straight for Long Xingnan's forehead. Clang! Crack! Rumble! This was his stunning attack. The void shattered and the glaciers within 100 miles cracked loudly. There was a huge avalanche and thousands of snowy peaks collapsed. As expected of someone who cultivated in the 100 Moons Academy in the ruins of immortality. As expected of a peerless genius on the war god list. This halberd destroyed everything within 100 miles and crushed everything. Many of the onlooking cultivators were shocked. The cultivators from the North Sea Saber Emperor's lineage were so frightened that their legs were trembling. Their eyes were filled with fear and admiration. So powerful. Even the cultivators from the Xianming Grotto heaven nodded slightly with admiration. This halberd was so powerful that it even destroyed space. Even Kang Te-Chu might not be able to block it, let alone Long Xingnan. Chapter 1492. Bang! 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 Long Xingnan's 9 Yuan Qi Jiao dragons coiled in front of her to form huge dragon shields, but they couldn't withstand the attack. The dragon shields exploded one after another, Yuan Qi gushed out, and the scales and bones scattered in the air. The sharp halberd was 1,000 feet long. It was like a dragon soaring in the sky or a missile. Its size was astonishing and its speed was as fast as lightning. It completely exceeded the speed of sound by 20 times and shattered the void. It was only 3 meters away from her forehead that was as smooth as jade. At the moment of death, Long Xingnan was very calm. She was not afraid at all, only a little regretful. She stood in the void with her hands clasped behind her back as tears streamed down her face. Her gaze seemed to penetrate her tears and the endless void to see a huge bright star. She looked up and mumbled, "What a pity, father. I was too foolish. I didn't join Senior Grand Primordium earlier and kill the Ruins Emperor and his henchmen to avenge you. Even if I felt that the chances of winning were slim, I had to resist. As long as I didn't die, I had to fight. Where's your ruthlessness? Where's your tenacity? Where did it go? It was eaten by the dogs." Just as Long Xingnan's heart was filled with despair and regret, a voice full of sorrow for her misfortune and anger suddenly rang out beside her. Long Xingnan saw Jiang Tian in a black robe suddenly appear in the void through her teary eyes. At that moment, in everyone's eyes. In front of the 1,000 feet long soul-absorbing halberd, Jiang Tian, who was the size of a normal person, appeared extremely tiny and weak. He was like an egg at the foot of Mount Tai or a mantis under a bronze chariot. There was no power to speak of. But then, Jiang Tian pointed his finger. His jade-white finger struck the sharp tip of the halberd. Clang! The sharp tip of the halberd that could pierce through mountains and land was blocked by Jiang Tian's finger. It could not move an inch further. Roar! In an instant, there were countless souls and vast soul energies. They roared and ferociously charged towards Jiang Tian with inertia. But the next moment, rumble! A strand of strong wind arose from the point of contact between his finger and the tip of the spear, and it was like a tsunami that swept through the surroundings and minced all the spirits and spiritual energy into powder. With the point of contact as the center, terrifying cracks spread out in all directions, quickly covering the tip of the halberd and the pole like a spider web. Bang! In less than a second, the soul-absorbing halberd, together with the countless resentful spirits attached to it, exploded. The fragments flew in the air like butterflies. Dong dong dong. Yu Qilin instantly retreated 10 steps back. Every step he took would shatter a piece of space, causing the space to ripple intensely. However, he only managed to stabilize himself after retreating for 100 miles. He felt a sweet taste in his throat as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Not to mention that the webbing between his thumb and index finger was torn apart, even his arms were torn open from the impact, causing blood to flow out. Terrifying. The power of a single finger is actually so terrifying. Yu Qilin's heart pounded as he stared dumbfounded at Jiang Tian. A chill ran from his spine to the top of his head, as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. He also considered himself a genius, an expert ranked 5th on the war god list. His reputation was brilliant even in the ruins of immortality. It was unknown just how many young ladies from prestigious families were his little fangirls, unknown just how many great cultivators discussed the Tao with him. But at this moment, compared to Jiang Tian's strength, he realized that he was completely useless. He was sure that Jiang Tian had not used his full strength, but he was still able to shatter his supreme-grade true artifact halberd with a single finger. If he had retreated a little slower, he would definitely have been torn to pieces by the aftershock of Jiang Tian's finger. Kang Taechu is indeed too strong. A single finger was able to block the full-strength attack of a god of war list prodigy and even shatter a supreme-grade true artifact. Also, he didn't use any spells or divine powers, nor did he use his Dharma form. Even his true essence is very weak. It's obvious that he's just relying on his body. What is he made of? His body is so strong that it can shake a supreme-grade true artifact. At this moment, countless cultivators from the North Sea were startled. The North Sea Blade Lord's family was so frightened that they trembled and wanted to run away. This is troublesome. We might not be able to stop Kang Taechu. What should we do with the Xianming Cold Spring? The nascent soul heavenly lords of the Xianming Grotto Heaven were anxious. The Xianming Cold Spring was a treasure of the world. With Kang Taechu's immortal will, there was no way they could hide it, let alone destroy it. Demon, I'm not afraid of you. Kill. In the field, Yu Qilin was furious. He shook his hands and another halberd formed in his hands. It was completely formed by laws and was very powerful. Immediately after, he attacked Jiang Tian with halberd after halberd. Natural laws rumbled and trembled. Each time, he had the power to sink a continent and destroy a mountain peak. You're too weak. Jiang Tian sneered. His body swayed and he used the Kun Peng's extreme speed. The laws under his feet rumbled. He was as relaxed and casual as a dream, but the halberd could not stop him at all. It was like a deity dancing on the edge of a blade or taking a stroll at the gates of hell. Between life and death, he revealed a kind of elegance and ease. Long Xingnan was mesmerized. Kang Taechu, you are a traitor of the ruins emperor. You are a bandit and unforgivable. You should go to the 9 Nether Death Star to repent and be a slave for the rest of your life for 10,000 years. Only then can you redeem yourself. Yu Qilin roared. He was loyal to the ruins emperor's palace and the North Sea was his homeland. With his lover beside him, he was fearless even if he went crazy in battle. Before he could finish his sentence, his ferocious and cold expression froze. A finger beam burst out from Jiang Tian's finger and pierced through the halberd phantoms. It tore through the laws and landed on his head. Pfft! The finger beam penetrated his head. The resplendent finger radiance shattered everything. It was sharp to the extreme as it pierced through his forehead and came out from the back of his head. Red and white matter splashed out as blood and brain matter flowed out. The golden finger radiance brought out hot brain matter as it rushed out. It looked extremely bloody. No one expected Jiang Tian's finger to be so peerlessly sharp. From the beginning to the end, Jiang Tian had only used 2 moves. The first move shattered his supreme-grade true artifact and the second move killed Yu Qilin, the 5th-ranked paragon on the God of War roll. Right on the heels of that, Yu Qilin's nascent soul that was severely injured exploded. His head and half of his body were reduced to ashes and blood rain. Only a small portion of his body was left on the ground. At that moment, countless people shuddered. Jiang Tian was too terrifying. He killed a nascent soul heavenly lord with a single finger and was ranked 5th on the God of War roll. How powerful was this? How glorious was this? How tyrannical was this? There were a lot of rumors about Jiang Tian in this world before, but most cultivators didn't believe them. They said he killed more than 20 nascent soul heavenly lords on the 18 islands, trampled on the 3 golden crows and killed 28 half-soul formation cultivators in the ancient demon abyss. Did they sound like something a human would say? A cultivator from the desolate solar system, like a bumpkin from a remote village, no, like a cockroach that crawled out of a wasteland, had the power of a half-soul formation cultivator. And yet, everyone believed it at that moment. In their eyes, Jiang Tian was like a god of war. His black hair reached his shoulders and his robe fluttered in the wind. His body was slender and strong and his eyes were like cold lightning. Chapter 1493. Wah, Jiang Taichu, you actually killed Yulinzi. You're a demon, a demon. Zhu Fenglan was even more heartbroken. Her face was twisted and her hands and feet were spasming. She hated Jiang Tian to the extreme because of the death of her childhood sweetheart. All the elites lowered their heads when they saw Kang Taichu. Wu Shujian exclaimed in horror. Then, he suddenly saw Ghost Wolf break through the void and attack Zhu Fenghuang with the air-piercing blade. He slapped his thigh again. If he was a bit slower, Ghost Wolf would have taken the lead again. He quickly rushed over. Kang Taichu, you're ruthless and cruel. You'll be punished by the heavens in the future. Noticing the Ghost Wolf's approach, Wind Baron expelled his chi and turned into a stream of light, fleeing in a sorry state. However, he still roared angrily and cursed viciously. Kill him. Jiang Tian's face was as cold as iron. He didn't say anything and urged Ghost Wolf. Whoosh! The air-piercing blade was extremely sharp. As the blade pierced through the air, cracks appeared in the space. Gale Wind Baron's body suddenly froze in the air. In the next moment, his golden elixir body, which was known to be indestructible, suddenly cracked like broken porcelain. Terrifying cracks appeared all over his body. Kang Taichu, you're so ruthless. Then, he exploded in a shrill scream. His body, golden core, and even divine soul were crushed by the fragments of the dimension. Kang Taichu, you killed the innocent and you're cruel. Even the heavens won't forgive you. You'll be punished in the future and you'll die a horrible death. Zhu Fengrui's eyes turned red when he saw the death of his family's ancestral patriarch. He roared and his golden armor shone brightly. His halberd was in the sky and he rode a snow eagle towards Jiang Tian. The halberd pierced through the void and its energy surged. Everything within a 10-mile radius trembled and a cold wind blew as if it came from hell. It was full of killing intent and coldness. His power was shocking. Ha, you're not qualified to be my enemy. I, Kang Taichu, am not afraid of karma. I like to go against the heavens. Only a coward would curse. I have always executed my own Tao. And now, you will die a horrible death. In the face of such a powerful aura, Jiang Tian was like a cool breeze brushing past his face. He didn't move at all and only let out a cold laugh. Since he left behind his last words, Wu Shujian had already arrived. He would not give Zhu Fengrui the chance to fight with Jiang Tian. In front of Jiang Tian, Zhu Fengrui, a golden core cultivator, was like an ant. You can die now. He exploded in an instant. Tens of thousands of flying swords, too many to count, flew towards Zhu Fengrui like a storm of locusts. Every one of them was extremely sharp, surrounded by the rumbling of the precepts of sword. Ah! Zhu Fengrui couldn't defend himself at all. He screamed in agony as his mountain-like body was pierced through countless times. Tiny flying swords shot out from his body in all directions, bringing with them clouds of blood mist. His golden core was riddled with holes and then exploded uncontrollably. Eh! Kang Taichu, you're vicious. You're a devil. Zhu Fengrui almost went crazy. She screamed loudly, her hair was disheveled and her hatred was overwhelming. Watching her lover and brother being killed was an unbearable pain. She saw with her own two eyes that a few tens of ancestors had rushed over from all directions to provide assistance, and they charged towards Jiang Tian like moths to a flame. However, they were easily crushed into powder by a flick of Jiang Tian's finger and a flick of his sleeve, and even their golden cores and souls were obliterated. Countless cultivators of the Zhu Fengrui family fought passionately, but in front of Jiang Tian, Wu Shujian, and Ghost Wolf, they couldn't withstand a single punch or kick. Many supreme-grade true artifacts that could kill elites on the God of War list were used, all of which came from the help of the Ruins Emperor's palace. Jiang Tian even struggled slightly, and easily got rid of it as if it was a straw. The Zhu Fengrui family's thousands of years of accumulation were no match for Jiang Tian's flick of his finger. He was invincible. Zhu Fengrui didn't know what it meant to be invincible, what it meant to be ruthless, but at that moment, she finally understood. At that moment, Jiang Tian was like a peerless fiend lord, the only ruler who could destroy everything. With a punch, the galaxy collapsed. With a flick of his finger, there was nothing it couldn't destroy. In front of him, all living things were like ants and dust. No one could go against his will. Those who were watching the battle were trembling and almost suffocating. "You talk too much." Jiang Tian sneered and raised his hand gently at Zhu Fengrui. The Essence Qi hand grabbed Zhu Fengrui, who was terrified and wanted to run away. "I'll send you to hell. Reunite with your family and lover." Jiang Tian clenched his fist gently and the woman exploded in the air. Blood filled the sky and all the secret treasures, Dharma artifacts, bodies, golden cores and divine souls turned into nothingness. After 3 flicks of his finger, a few stragglers and a few cats and kittens were also killed by Long Xingnan, Wu Shujian and Ghost Wolf. There was no one left in the Zhu Fengrui family. Jiang Tian looked at the sky a few thousand miles away and said coldly, "This battle has nothing to do with ordinary people. All the cultivation sects and families have broken ties with the ruins of deity. If they kneel and surrender, they can live. I've seen people who don't kneel and surrender along the way. Kill them all. Don't leave a chicken or a dog alive." At this time, Jiang Tian's divine sense had already reached an incomparably powerful level. With just a thought, everyone felt as if there was a god 3 feet above their heads, and they could clearly sense it. Crack. "We submit to you. From now on, we'll follow the lead of the Taichu Heavenly Lord." 3,000 miles away, on a towering mountain. In a large sect, a few golden core cultivators who were watching the battle through a telescope were scared out of their wits. They trembled and knelt on the ground, bowing deeply. Not only them, thousands of sects in the North Sea, including the North Sea Blade Emperor's family, were also trembling in fear. They immediately declared their allegiance to Jiang Tian and broke ties with the ruins of deity. Why didn't the people of the Xianming Grotto Heaven say anything? Not convinced? Not afraid? Not willing to surrender? "Fine, I'm going to wipe you out right now." Jiang Tian suddenly sensed something, and then his face turned cold. He looked in the direction of the Xianming paradise that was 50,000 kilometers away and shouted loudly. Following his words, the heavens and earth began to rumble. Waves of divine sense over 100,000 zhang long surged in the rift. The mortals, cultivators, beasts, and even plants within 1,000 li sensed it and trembled in fear, as if they were being suppressed by thousands of mountains, or even a vast continent. What? He's going to wipe out the Xianming Grotto Heaven. The cultivators who were watching the battle near the Winterfell battlefield exclaimed in shock. At that moment, tens of thousands of cultivators had gathered within 1,000 miles of the city. Almost all the cultivators in the North Sea had gathered there. There was no lack of golden core cultivators, family heads, city lords, sect masters, and elders among them. He's here to wipe out the forces of the Ruins Emperor's palace. Winterfell has only received the support of the Ruins Emperor's palace. It can be considered half the bloodline of the Ruins Emperor's palace. The Xianming Grotto Heaven is undoubtedly the son of the Ruins Emperor's palace. How can he let it go? A cultivator slapped his thigh and said. Countless cultivators were extremely shocked when they thought of that. Their faces turned pale. That was the Xianming Grotto Heaven. The branch of the Ruins Emperor's palace was a strong fortress with a deep foundation and incredible strength. Could Kang Taichu really wipe it out? Chapter 1494. At that moment, an old cultivator in the crowd sighed regretfully. I heard that the cultivators of the Xianming Grotto Heaven have already become one with the Grotto Heaven. Every breath and action they take can affect the entire world. In that Grotto Heaven with a radius of 50 kilometers, they are like gods who can gather the power of the Grotto Heaven. Fellow Taoist Tai Chu is very strong, but this is too rash. He was a sect master of a large sect. He pretended to be worried and regretful, but there was a trace of mockery in the depths of his eyes. It was obvious that he did not think highly of Jiang Tian. Fellow Taoist Tai Chu said that he wants to flatten the Xianming Grotto Heaven, but I'm afraid it will take 3 to 5 months. Are we going to wait here forever? A city lord spoke. Although he was kneeling on the ground, he was tall and mighty, and his tone was full of mockery. 3 to 5 months, and we still have to stay kneeling? I'm afraid my knees won't be able to take it. The disciples of the North Sea Saber Emperor sneered. Sighs could be heard all around. Although they were afraid of Jiang Tian's power and did not have a close relationship with the ruins Emperor's palace, they were still the ones with vested interests in this world. They stood at the top of the pyramid of power in this world, at the top of the food chain. To them, it was best to maintain the status quo. And Jiang Tian was here to change the situation, to change a lot. Of course, that was what they did not want to see. They did not dare to say it, but in their hearts, they treated Jiang Tian as a bandit, a killing god, and a devil. They could not wait for Jiang Tian to die at the hands of the Xianming Grotto Heaven. Seeing this, Long Shengnan and Fairy Yao Yu were very unhappy. Wu Shujian frowned, wishing he could behead this group of people. Jiang Tian did not bring them along to flatten the Xianming Grotto Heaven. Even destroying Winterfell was just a matter of flicking his sleeve for Jiang Tian. He only asked them to take action to prove their allegiance. But in the face of these people's doubts and ridicule, they couldn't do anything. These Northern Sea cultivators were evil. They didn't openly oppose you, but even if they said strange things, you wouldn't be able to argue with them. If he wanted to kill people, then Jiang Tian's crime of willfully slaughtering the innocent would be confirmed. In the future, it would be difficult for him to win the hearts of the people in this world. His rule would be as firm as a rock. Jie. At this moment, Ghost Wolf suddenly let out a strange laugh. His laughter was very light, yet in the ears of everyone, it was like the laughter of a devil from hell, causing their scalps to go numb, and it instantly suppressed the entire scene to become deathly silent. Back then, he was a peerless assassin who dominated the ruins of immortality. He had even killed a soul formation cultivator. Later on, he became the captain of the Dark Crow Guards in the ruins Emperor's palace. His resume was too frightening. Fellow Taoists, please listen to me. Ghost Wolf sneered. What? The cultivators of the Northern Sea realm frowned and looked up. Ghost Wolf walked out with large strides. He held a golden ball in his hand and raised it into the air. The golden ball flew out into the sky and let out endless rays of light, opening a giant golden curtain. Through the golden curtain, the thousands of cultivators around the ruins of Winterfell could clearly see a black-robed, black-eyed, shoulder-length-haired Jiang Tian standing in a snowy valley with his hands behind his back. In the snowy valley, the wind was howling and the snow was like a mat. There were towering mountains around it, and gusts of white wind rose from the ground and swept the sky like white dragons dancing wildly. In the sky, a giant stone tablet floated and countless thunderbolts fell around it. That was the true thunder of the laws, which could kill a nascent soul heavenly lord with one strike. At this moment, it was like a sea of lightning, shocking the world. At the same time, snowstorms rose into the sky like black tornadoes, like iron chains that stretched across the sky, enveloping a seemingly real and yet illusory area. On the giant stone tablet, there were 3 large words written in silver, Xianming Grotto Heaven. The words were red like flowing blood, extremely frightening. What? He has already arrived at the Xianming Grotto Heaven. Hiss. At this moment, the entire place was filled with exclamations and gasps. The mockery on the faces of all the cultivators was gone, and they were enveloped by shock and fear as if they had seen a demon. As for Ghost Wolf, a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. In just 15 minutes, Jiang Tian had already arrived at the Xianming Grotto Heaven, crossing 100,000 miles of ice and snow. Not many people could match his speed even in the ruins of deity. Behind the mountain gate of the Xianming Grotto Heaven, behind the barrier of clouds, fog, thunder and lightning, and raging snowstorms, was a world with birds chirping and flowers fragrant, dense spirit qi like a fog, and essence qi like a waterfall. In this place, spirit fruits and great medicines grew everywhere, swaying with the wind. The verdant embryonic origin fruit, the red agate-like flaming phoenix fruit, and the golden origin energy fruit hung on the jasper-like branches one by one, string after string. A cool breeze blew by, and there were no ripples on the surface of a lake. It was very calm and clear, and waves of fruit fragrance were tempting. Nearby, spirit plants were everywhere, and spirit medicine emitted a strange fragrance that was full of vitality. In a divine garden by the lakeside, the palace halls were continuous, mighty and majestic, and there were exquisite pavilions and pagodas as decorations. Under a pure white stone arch bridge, the Xianming cold spring flowed, and dense spiritual energy rose up. In the lake, the endless Xianming cold spring flowed, and there was actually an ancient lotus growing. It was boundlessly huge and had 12 lotus platforms. It bloomed with auspicious colors and spirit qi coiled around it, looking extremely mysterious. Even ordinary cultivators would be able to acutely sense that whether it was this ancient lotus or the Xianming cold spring, they were absolutely terrifying treasures of heaven and earth. They could allow cultivators to reach the heavens in a single step, or they could be refined into powerful and everlasting true artifacts or even Tao artifacts. In the divine garden, there was a simple platform on which 7 nascent soul heavenly lords were sitting with their legs crossed, anxiously waiting for the ancient lotus to mature. The faint sound of a flute came out from the woods and courtyards. It was very gentle and very pleasant to the ears. Wisps of celestial music flowed and brushed past hundreds of flowers, which instantly bloomed and crossed the clear spring. Dense steam rose into the air and spread to the sky, attracting all kinds of birds and dancing around the platform. It was ethereal like a deity, and transcended the mortal world. The sound of the flute could cleanse the mortal world and make people feel peaceful. There were a total of 6 nascent soul heavenly lords, and one of them was even a half-step soul formation cultivator. These 7 giants were all powerful and shone like stars in the sky. However, they didn't participate in the battle against Jiang Tian on the 18 Island and the ancient demon abyss. Because they had a more important responsibility, which was to protect the Xianming cold spring and the ancient lotus. The Grand Chancellor of the Academy, Yan Hua, has sent a flying sword message, saying that they're no match for Kang Te-Chu. Prince Chunyu has died and they've retreated to the High Lan world. A short nascent soul heavenly lord with chicken skin and a crane's head said with a bitter face. And I've just received a message from my disciple. Kang Te-Chu is invincible and has already conquered Winterfell. He's going to conquer the North Sea world. He'll definitely come to the Xianming Grotto Heaven to settle the score. Yan Hua is so cowardly and heartless. How dare he abandon his fellow cultivators? A tall and burly man with a curly beard who looked like an angry King Kong said angrily. Elder Wu, Yan Hua belongs to the Academy. And we belong to the Sword God of the Ruins Emperor Palace. The Academy and the Sword God don't agree with each other. Prince Qiuming and Prince Chunyu have always been fighting for power. Now that he's suffered, why would he help us? A handsome cultivator with a long sword on his back who looked like an ancient scholar sneered with a piercing gaze. His name was Zhou Zian and he was one of Prince Qiuming's trusted subordinates. He was a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator and a peerless sword cultivator. 300 years ago, there was a riot in Zhangzhou in the ruins of immortality. He had once quelled it and killed 10 nascent soul heavenly lords with a slash. He was famous in the ruins of immortality and had a deep prestige. The short elder with chicken skin and a crane's head sighed and said bitterly, "We can't leave." Leave? You can't leave. This Xianming Grotto Heaven was originally built as an imperial residence for His Majesty, the Ruins Emperor. When he awakens, he can tour the lower realms and stay there. If we can't defend it, we'll be sentenced to death. We have to defend it, but Kang Tae-chu is so strong and fierce. Even the 3 Golden Crow guards, Yen Hua and Prince Chun Yu were defeated. We're the only ones left. It's really difficult to defend it alone. The bearded elder Wu's hair and beard were completely red, as if they were burning with flames. He said in an irritable tone, "Elder Ai, you're born a coward. You're worried about this and afraid of that. If Kang Tae-chu really dares to come, I'll smack him into meat paste." Chapter 1495. The short elder Ai, whose robe was embroidered with a lot of poisonous insects, shrank his head and was about to refute. Ahem. The half-soul formation grotto heaven owner slowly opened his eyes and said, "Don't worry. Don't worry. We've refined this grotto heaven for decades. The origin energy of the world is connected with our Dharma laws. It'll increase our power to an unimaginable level. As long as we don't leave this grotto heaven, Kang Tae-chu won't be able to kill us. We'll even kill him easily." That old man's name was Marulong. He used to be an elder of a heavenly sect in the ruins of deity. He was famous for being fierce and had a high status. He could completely suppress a second-level dimension. If not for Prince Chiu Ming excavating the Xianming Frost Spring to build a temporary residence for the ruins emperor when he left seclusion, gaining the ruins emperor's favor and inviting him personally, he would not have come down to the lower realm to preside over the grotto heaven. His azure robe was old and his face was thin. He was unusually tall and strong. Even though he was sitting there, he was like a towering mountain that couldn't be shaken. His gray hair reached his shoulders and his face was cold. When he opened his eyes, there seemed to be 2 flashes of lightning in the sky. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's and he was as fierce as a tiger. Everyone nodded after hearing that and their confidence was boosted. Marulong was the most powerful among them, but he was only as powerful as the leader of the Golden Crow Guards, Jiang Tian. He shouldn't be a match for Jiang Tian. However, it was completely different when they occupied this grotto heaven. They had already cultivated and sat here for several dozen years, or even over a century. Their minds had become one with the laws of this paradise, as if they were the rulers of this paradise. They were extremely adept at borrowing and mobilizing the power of this paradise. As they stretched and stretched, they merged with the entire world, becoming indistinguishable from each other. Every single action they made seemed to be able to bring about boundless power. That way, their combat power would be increased 100 times. Even a normal nascent soul cultivator could be as powerful as a soul formation cultivator, not to mention that they weren't normal nascent soul cultivators. With the support of this grotto heaven, it could be said that even a real divine transformation realm cultivator would not dare to step in recklessly. Elder Wu chuckled and said, "Elder Ai, old Ma is right. We might even be able to kill a soul formation grand cultivator, not to mention Kang Tae-chu. You're too cowardly. I'm just afraid that he won't dare to come." Laughing at Jiang Tian, everyone smiled knowingly. Rumble. An earth-shattering explosion rang out. The palace shook, and the cold spring water surged with monstrous waves. Many cultivators were caught off guard and almost fell to the ground. What happened? All the elders were shocked. Many disciples rushed out from the various halls of the paradise like rainbows piercing through the sun. They stood in the void and looked around, their faces blank. They did not know what was going on. This sort of situation was very rare to begin with. There was a barrier separating the grotto heaven and the great world. Although the barrier wasn't as strong as the dimension barrier or the world membrane, it was still very stable. Those below the peak stage nascent soul level wouldn't be able to move it at all. For example, Jiang Tian had smashed the array of Winterfell with hundreds of thousands of feet tall mountains, but it was impossible for him to destroy the barrier of the grotto heaven. The barrier of the grotto heaven was naturally formed and it was almost as strong as the Great Tao. It was indestructible and normal forces would not be able to destroy it. Someone is attacking the Xianming grotto heaven. The only female cultivator among the 7 overlords put down her flute and looked outside of the grotto heaven. The melodious sound of the flute stopped abruptly. This female cultivator had a graceful body, bright eyes and white teeth. She was extremely beautiful. She wore a green Taoist robe, and her hair was tied up by a golden crown. Her black hair was so shiny that it could reflect one's appearance. Her black brows were curved, her eyelashes were long, and her skin was snow-white and tender. Her beautiful eyes contained a poetic charm, and there was a spirit and clarity that seemed to have seen through the mortal world. Fairy Qingshi, just like her name, was as graceful as a poem, as beautiful as a dream and as elegant as a peerless beauty. She was breathtakingly beautiful. All the cultivators present were tempted and did not dare to look at her directly. It has to be known that the cultivators present who had reached this level had seen far too many beautiful women in the sea of people. Moreover, their temperaments were different from ordinary people, and their Tao hearts were as calm as a boulder. To them, women were like skeletons, and their bodies were like bags of skin. However, her beauty did not come from her appearance or even her bones. Instead, it was a special aura. The more one looked at her, the more extraordinary she seemed. She was compatible with the Tao and exuded a pure and natural aura. Fairy Qingshi was a genius elite. Her name was known throughout the vast ruins of immortality. She had once been Prince Qiu Ming's master. Although she was not as strong as the teacher or the sword god of the ruins Emperor's palace, she was not much weaker. She had even been the Grand Chancellor of the Hundred Moons Academy. However, after Prince Qiu Ming became an adult, his feelings for her slowly changed. It was no longer as simple as a master and disciple relationship. However, Fairy Qingshi was focused on the Tao. She went to the lower realm to avoid meeting Prince Qiu Ming. Otherwise, with her talent, strength, and reputation, she would have reached the peak of the soul formation realm and could even be the dean of the academy. Is that Kang Taichu? Fairy Qingshi's clear eyes seemed to be able to see through everything in the world. She looked through the palaces, barriers and array waves and looked outside the grotto heaven. She waved her hand gently. A golden halo appeared in the sky. In the halo, a young man in black reached out a finger and gently knocked on the barrier of the Xianming grotto heaven, like a mortal knocking on the door of his neighbor's house. However, every time he knocked, the barrier would shake violently. The mountain gate would rumble and even the entire grotto heaven would tremble slightly. At the same time, a calm and clear voice passed through the strict barriers and arrays and clearly reached the ears of every elder and cultivator. Kang Taichu from the mountains is here to clean up the caves. Please come out and meet me. At that moment, the 7 leaders present were furious and their faces turned pale. Kang Taichu, how dare you come? Elder Wu gritted his teeth and 2 10-foot flames of anger shot out of his eyes. They seemed to be able to melt the stars, shatter the moon and burn the sky. Oh my God! At that moment, on the ruins of Winterfell thousands of miles away, many cultivators were already in an uproar. Countless cultivators knelt on the ground and looked up at the giant golden screen in the sky without blinking. The light screen was very clear and Jiang Tian's every detail could be seen on it. This golden light screen was the display part of a surveillance Dharma artifact. When the golden crow, the white python and the dark crow came to the northern sea to observe the situation of the defense here, they had set up many surveillance Dharma artifacts around the Xianming grotto heaven so that they could observe from a distance. Jiang Tian only pointed his finger at the sky and knocked on the barrier of the mountain gate lightly. The protective array of the Xianming grotto heaven shook violently as if it was about to collapse. The barrier formed by the wind, snow, thunder and cold waves seemed to have been hit by the giant hammer of a prehistoric giant miracle god. A giant dent of 1,000 square meters was formed as if it was about to collapse. Oh my God! Kang Taichu really came to the gate of the Xianming grotto heaven. How can it be fake? I've been to the Xianming grotto heaven when I traveled the northern sea. I know what their mountain gate looks like. That's it. Didn't they say that the Xianming grotto heaven is at least 10,000 miles away from here? Even a heavenly lord would need 6 hours to fly there. How can Kang Taichu be so fast? Kang Taichu isn't an ordinary nascent soul heavenly lord. He can kill more than 20 half-soul formation cultivators. How can we speculate about his divine abilities? It's not difficult for him to travel tens of thousands of miles in 10 seconds. Some people couldn't believe it, while others were impressed. It could be said that Jiang Tian had won the respect of many people just by breaking open the space and instantly attacking the Xianming cave that was 100,000 miles away. He had turned many powerful cultivators into his little fans. The entire Winterfell and the entire Northern Sea was in an uproar because of Jiang Tian. He had traveled 100,000 miles in a blink and crossed half of the Northern Sea. What did such a terrifying speed mean? Many people were terrified. If Jiang Tian could reach the Xianming Grotto heavens so quickly, could he also reach his own sect so quickly? The answer was obvious. This meant that if anyone dared to go against Jiang Tian in the Northern Sea realm, he would be able to kill them in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn or even the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. They wouldn't even have a chance to escape. What do you mean by being hunted down to the ends of the earth? Impossible. It was an instant kill. Many sect leaders, elders, and family heads shuddered at the thought of this. Their hearts turned icy cold, 10 times colder than the Northern Sea realm's 10,000-year cold wind. Chapter 1496. That guy is so powerful. The 7 leaders of the Xianming Grotto heaven looked terrible. Even the local cultivators of the North Sea understood. As cultivators from the upper worlds, they were more knowledgeable and had a deeper understanding of cultivation and strength. How could they not understand the key points? At this moment, even the leader of the Grotto heaven, Ma Rulong, pursed his lips and half of his arrogance and confidence dissipated. His eyes were extremely deep and there was light flickering in his eyes. He was also hesitant. The other elders looked at each other and their immortal wills clashed as they exchanged opinions. At this time, Wu Shujian found a giant rock under the golden screen and sat down lazily. He sipped the thunder fire wine that Jiang Tian gave him and laughed. Awesome. It's so awesome to work with Brother Tai Chu. So what if he's fast? At this time, the cultivators of the North Sea who were unhappy with Jiang Tian finally said, "This Grotto Heaven's barrier is even stronger than the one of the legendary Golden Crow ancient emperor in the ancient demon abyss of the Yingzhou world. This is a natural Grotto Heaven that fell into the North Sea from the depths of space thousands of years ago. Its barrier is unbreakable and only a soul formation grand cultivator broke it. I don't believe that Senior Tai Chu can break it. Try to slander Senior Tai Chu again. You're asking for death." Long Xingnan was furious after hearing that. But Ghost Wolf stopped her and didn't say a word. But in the depths of his eyes, there was contempt and mockery that everyone could clearly sense. Ha! Senior Tai Chu's laws are even more powerful than ordinary Great Daos. I'm afraid he's the reincarnation of the legendary old monster of the Central Galaxy. His power isn't something that these bumpkins can imagine. We don't have to say anything. Let's just wait and see. Reality will slap these disobedient people in the face. Ha ha ha. He talked to Long Xingnan and Wu Shujian with his immortal wills and laughed. You don't want to see me and think you can stop me by hiding in this turtle shell. In that case, I can only forcefully break open this eggshell and talk to you all. Seeing that there was no movement in the Grotto Heaven, Jiang Tian said with a mocking smile. Wait. At this time, 2 figures broke through the barrier and appeared in the air. They were none other than Fairy Qingshi and Elder Wu. Fairy Qingshi's figure was tall and slender, and her appearance was unparalleled. She was devastatingly beautiful. Her jade-like arms were flawless and sparkling like porcelain. Her waist was slender and her legs were long and straight. Her steps were light and graceful, like a startled swan. She was as graceful as a swimming dragon. Her white robe fluttered in the wind, and her temperament was outstanding. Your Excellency, absolute beginning, this place isn't heavily guarded. It's not a fortress or stronghold. It's just a place for us to cultivate in seclusion. As for us, we're just wandering around the mortal world. We don't care about the mortal world, we don't fight, and we have no grudges against fellow Taoist Tai Chu. Fellow Taoist Tai Chu, why do you have to make things difficult for us? Fairy Qingshi smiled from ear to ear as her red lips parted slightly. Her voice had a magnetic quality that sounded like the sounds of nature. It was pleasant to the ears. Her attitude was very gentle as she tried to dissolve Jiang Tian's killing intent. Fellow Taoists, all of you have noble statuses. I know that as well, so I won't make things difficult for you or put you on the spot. I'll leave you some dignity. There's no need for you to kneel and admit defeat. Swear to sever ties with the Ruins Emperor. All you need to do is leave this world. Jiang Tian's expression was cold as steel, but he made an appropriate concession. This grotto heaven is the temporary residence of the Ruins Emperor that we are guarding under the orders of the Ruins Emperor Hall. If we were to leave now, the Ruins Emperor Hall will definitely punish us. Only death awaits us. Fairy Qingshi revealed a wry smile as she cupped her fists. Her tone and actions were very elegant and appropriate. Fellow Taoist Tai Chu, please make things easy for us. Be magnanimous and let us off. She was a peerless beauty with peerless immortal charm. Her soft pleading and pitiful appearance probably made it difficult for any man in the world to persevere. They would be swayed and softened by her. However, Jiang Tian had seen all sorts of situations. He had killed his entire life, dyeing the firmaments red with blood. His Tao heart was already as stable as a boulder and as firm as Vajra. He was completely unmoved. His expression was as cold as steel as his gaze was as sharp as a blade. He said without reservation, the Ruins Emperor's various worlds will belong to me, Kang Te Chu. This Xianming Grotto heaven is mine today. If you move aside, I'll spare your life if we meet again on the battlefield. But if you stand in my way today, I'll kill you. You might be afraid of the Ruins Emperor, but aren't you afraid that the absolute heaven sword in my hand will kill mercilessly? Fellow Taoist, what do you mean? Do you think we 7 powerhouses are pushovers? Do you want to barge into our Xianming Grotto heaven? Elder Wu took a step forward and bellowed angrily. His nascent soul roared and his Dharma form was released. It turned out to be a giant fire qilin. The fire qilin was 1,000 feet tall and was like a flaming mountain. It stepped on thunderbolts and its body was surrounded by flames. It was mighty and its cold eyes looked down at everyone as it roared into the sky. That Dharma form was different from the Dharma form of a normal nascent soul heavenly lord. It was connected to the earth fire deep inside the grotto heaven and was extremely condensed. Its power was immense and endless. When the Dharma form was released, a heavenly power descended 100 miles away from the grotto heaven. The energy was so strong and vast that it had never appeared in the North Sea. The cultivators far away felt chills down their spines when they sensed it. With a roar, a huge pillar of fire shot out from the fire qilin's mouth. Everything within a radius of 100 miles trembled. All the creatures were so scared that they were shivering and crawling on the ground. The primordial beasts fell from the sky, and the ferocious beasts buried their heads in the snow. Yes. So what? Jiang Tian didn't retreat in the face of Elder Wu's overwhelming power. He was calm and fearless. Kang Te Chu, you. Elder Wu was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He was speechless. He had traveled across the ruins of deity and lived for thousands of years. He was knowledgeable and had seen all kinds of bandits. However, it was the first time that he had seen someone like Jiang Tian, who was resolute, domineering, and had a bandit temperament. It made him feel a little helpless, as if he had just met a soldier. In the past, with his fiery temper, Elder Wu would have attacked him immediately and destroyed his body and soul. But he didn't dare to do that in front of Jiang Tian. Kang Te Chu, don't say I didn't warn you. Elder Wu tried to put up a strong front as he roared. The 7 of us have sat cross-legged and cultivated bitterly here for at least 100 years, and we've completely fused with this abode. Our resources and reserves are so deep that it's utterly not something you can imagine. If I were you, I would choose to avoid them instead of throwing an egg at a rock and asking for death. Boom! As soon as he said that, the grotto heaven shook. Chains of earth fire that were 10,000 feet long gushed out from the bottom of the grotto heaven and were infused into his fire Chilan Dharma form. Suddenly, the fire Chilan Dharma form was more than 10 times stronger than before. It turned into a god with a Chilan head and a human body. Its vast energy suppressed all living beings in a 1,000-mile radius. All of them knelt on the ground and trembled. In the Xianming grotto heaven, countless cultivators floated in the air and activated the Dharma arrays of the grotto heaven, ready to launch a terrifying attack on Jiang Tian. I'm not afraid even if a real soul formation cultivator is here. Besides, you haven't even reached the soul formation level. You're just using a nascent soul Dharma form to simulate it. There's no point in talking. I'll give you 10 flicks of the fingers. If you don't retreat, I'll kill you. Jiang Tian put his hands in his sleeves and closed his eyes. He looked lazy, but he had already given the ultimatum. He was going to kill in the next second. This guy is ruthless and his heart is as hard as iron. I'm afraid we can't persuade him. Get ready for a fight to the death. In the grotto heaven, Ma Rulong's face turned pale as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He waved his sleeves and flew to the sky, approaching where Jiang Tian was. Swoosh! 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 The entire paradise shook. In the divine garden, numerous powerful figures turned into rainbows that pierced through the heavens and the earth. They rose from the ground and flew towards Jiang Tian. 10 flicks of the fingers. It's time. Jiang Tian suddenly opened his eyes. His gaze was like lightning as he pointed a finger at Elder Wu. Kill! Elder Wu was alarmed. He waved his right hand and the fire Chilan in the form of a god turned into a ray of red light and fell into his hand. It instantly turned into a flaming saber. With the saber in his hand, Elder Wu's energy surged endlessly, surpassing what it was before. In an instant, he reached the peak stage of the nascent soul level, half a step away from the soul formation level and was close to the soul formation level. Every breath he took seemed to have merged with the entire grotto heaven and affected the vast earth fire at the bottom of the grotto heaven. He was the master of this vast grotto heaven. In fact, all the energy of the earth fire in this grotto heaven was being strengthened by Elder Wu. He slashed with his saber and the flames slashed towards Jiang Tian. It wasn't just the power of his Dharma form. It also gathered all the earth fire within a 100-mile radius. Chapter 1497. Just like Jiang Tian's chaotic source cauldron, which was his most powerful weapon apart from the absolute heaven sword, it represented the power of nature and the world. Even a half-step soul formation cultivator wouldn't dare to face it casually. It was the same logic as now. No cultivator was willing to become enemies with the owner of a world. That was using one's weakness to attack another's strength. One had to know that the power of heaven and earth was too strong. Be it a grotto heaven or a small world, even if the grotto heaven was only 100 miles in radius, it was still extremely terrifying. Crack! The flaming saber was 100,000 feet long and extremely blazing. The entire sky was forcefully torn apart. The void trembled and the earth quaked. A glacier that was 10,000 feet high rapidly melted 100 miles away. The ice and snow that had not melted for 1,000 years evaporated into clouds and mist. Countless living beings were forcefully cooked and burned into ashes. The vast northern sea realm was shaking and trembling. It seemed as if it could not withstand the pressure and would crack open in the next moment. Ah! You don't know what's good for you. You're courting death by trying to compete with my flames. Jiang Tian sneered with a mocking expression. In the face of this attack that was comparable to a soul formation grand cultivator, Jiang Tian didn't advance or retreat. Instead, he took a step forward and extended his jade-white fingers like a girl's slender fingers. Clang! At this moment, a pair of flaming wings that were 1,000 feet long suddenly unfolded on one of Jiang Tian's shoulders. It was the wings of the vermilion bird. It was completely formed by the vermilion bird true fire laws. Every feather was like a red heavenly saber that emitted thousands of rays of light and thousands of auspicious colors. It was extremely dazzling and extremely powerful as it slashed through. Boom! In fact, Jiang Tian's wings of the vermilion bird weren't as shocking as Elder Wu's flaming saber, but its lethality was too terrifying. It was completely the power of laws. When the saber slashed, the true fire laws rumbled and burned the void within 100 miles. The moment Elder Wu's flaming saber came into contact with the vermilion bird true fire laws, it instantly collapsed as if it was made of hot oil and couldn't withstand a single blow at all. How is this possible? Elder Wu cried out in shock. His face instantly turned as white as a sheet of paper. Cold sweat flowed down his back as he was extremely shocked. He had never expected that his attack, which had gathered the power of the heavenly abode and earthly fire and was aimed at the divinity transformation stage Cultivator, would not be able to resist Jiang Tian's casual wave of his fingers. He wanted to retreat, but he immediately discovered that he couldn't move his body in the slightest. He couldn't help but be scared out of his wits. He was actually locked in place by Jiang Tian's forbidden zone. Kang Te Chu, let go of me. Even though Jiang Tian was using all kinds of methods, his roaring nascent soul was burning. He used all kinds of secret arts and dozens of Dharma artifacts that could increase his speed, break restrictions, and escape spells exploded at the same time, and the other 6 magnates also attacked together, trying to break Jiang Tian's forbidden realm. They still didn't succeed. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Tian's vermilion bird primordial fire had already reached him. With a loud boom, Elder Wu was like a giant firework, blooming in the air. Spiritual essence, blood fog and Dharma powers rolled out in all directions. The moment Elder Wu died, the Xianming grotto trembled. Heavy rain poured down like the tears of the heavens. Angry thunderclaps seemed to be roaring. The wind howled like a whimper. Fire spewed out like the howling of ghosts. The nascent soul was formed by the laws of heaven and earth. Especially when Elder Wu had been cultivating in seclusion here for 100 years, he had already merged his own laws with the Xianming grotto heaven. When he died, the heaven and earth resonated as if the son of this grotto heaven had died. How is this possible? At this moment, tens of thousands of miles away, the countless practitioners around the ruins of Winterfell were dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Elder Wu borrowed the power of the earthly fire of the entire grotto heaven. Even Ma Rulong, Zhou Zian and the other magnates of the Xianming grotto heaven were shocked. They couldn't believe it. This is too scary. Fairy Qingshi could no longer maintain her elegance and dignity. She was so shocked that she almost fell from the sky. Then, she turned into a stream of light and retreated into the paradise. They certainly knew that Jiang Tian was powerful. After all, Jiang Tian had defeated more than 20 nascent soul cultivators from different worlds on the 18 islands, slaughtering the 3 golden crows and 26 half-soul formation cultivators above the ancient demon abyss. His achievements were enough to shock the world and even be recorded in history. However, they did not expect Jiang Tian to be so strong. Elder Wu had already completely controlled the power of the earthly fire in that grotto heaven. Normal nascent soul cultivators would be no match for him, and half-soul formation cultivators might not even be able to fight against him. And yet, he still couldn't withstand Jiang Tian's casual wave. What a fool! What do you know about cultivation? Jiang Tian's face was calm and relaxed. With his hands behind his back, he said leisurely, "You must know that if one obeys, one becomes immortal. If one defies, one becomes an immortal. Cultivation is going against heaven and earth, seizing the fortune of heaven and earth to refine oneself. You're immersed in controlling the power of heaven and earth, but you don't know that you'll be devoured and assimilated by the will of heaven and earth sooner or later. Cultivators like us should fight against heaven and earth and fight for our own lives. You, on the other hand, pursue the so-called natural Tao, which is inferior. Moreover, you're only controlling a grotto heaven with a radius of 100 miles. I think the cultivation arts of your ruins of immortality are just so. You should be swept into the dust of history. Barbaric. Barbaric. If the Tao is against nature, what's the law? Marulong shouted, "You lack respect for heaven and earth, so you'll never reach the peak of the nascent soul cultivator, soul formation cultivator, or even immortal ascension. It's fine if you're the law of yourself or the world. In short, there's no good law of nature." Jiang Tian laughed mockingly and said, "That's right. You can support me. You won't understand my ability and ambition. Even the Ruins Emperor might not understand it. As long as I'm willing, I can even reach the soul formation, void reversion, and Tao integration realm with a snap of my fingers, let alone the nascent soul realm." Jiang Tian's expression was neither sad nor happy, as though he was hanging high in the sky. His figure was peerless and he looked a little lonely. However, that's meaningless. Haste makes waste. The further you go on the path of cultivation, the more you'll know that building a solid foundation is more important than anything else. Arrogant. Kill him. Marulong roared. Do you think that you can be proud just because you're one with a grotto heaven? Fine, I'll show you what true strength is today. Jiang Tian roared as the vast gung metal laws surged like a river. His aura surged into the heavens and stirred the firmaments. With a punch, the world collapsed. Gung metal divine fist. Clang. That punch was like an asteroid hitting the ground or 100,000-foot mountain soaring through the sky. The surging gung metal energy waves swept in all directions like a vast ocean. Boom. At that moment, the barrier formed by countless nethergale, snowstorm, and lightning trembled violently. The snowstorm dragons that stretched across the sky like gigantic dragons were blasted apart. The next moment, his punch tore a huge hole in the barrier. Inside, winds howled angrily as black gases were thick. It resembled the netherworld. The barrier was 5 kilometers long. Through the hole that spanned 1,000 feet, one could see the fragrance of flowers, clear springs, and tranquil lakes. A divine garden sat by the lakeside. It was the Xianming Grotto Heaven. Jiang Tian's punch had shattered the Xianming Grotto Heaven's barrier. Whoosh! 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 Before Marulong, Zhou Zian, Elder AI, Fairy Qingshi, and the other powerhouses could attack, they were sent flying more than 5 kilometers away like withered leaves in the wind. Wah! Elder AI, who had the lowest cultivation level, felt a sweetness in his throat as he spat out a mouthful of blood. He wore a bitter expression as fear filled his eyes. He was so frightened that his legs were trembling. How dare you! This is the temporary residence that Prince Chiu Ming built for the Ruins Emperor. How dare you destroy it? Marulong and the other powerhouses' expressions changed drastically. They looked up at Jiang Tian in shock and anger. I, Kang Te-Chu, have been unrivaled and have been bold for 10,000 years. Even if I want to destroy the Ruins Emperor's altar, what can you do? Jiang Tian laughed loudly without any restraint. He was indescribably domineering and evil. He was like a fighter jet that crashed into the Xianming Grotto Heaven. He's too powerful. That's a Grotto Heaven barrier. Even a soul formation cultivator might not be able to destroy it. However, Kang Te-Chu tore it apart with a single punch. Around the Xianming Grotto Heaven, countless cultivators who were watching the battle under the huge screen of Winterfell's ruins exclaimed in admiration. They were horrified as though they had seen a demon. Chapter 1498. The Xianming Grotto Heaven is powerful. It's not that simple. If Kang Te-Chu can destroy it with a single punch, would it still be called a Grotto Heaven? There were still some stubborn people who didn't think highly of Jiang Tian. They didn't dare to say it out loud, but they talked sarcastically with their immortal will, as if Jiang Tian was an ant trying to shake a tree or a mantis. As expected. Stop him. As Marulong shouted, many of the overlords reacted and attacked Jiang Tian with their secret arts, trying to kill him outside the Grotto Heaven. Roar! Kang Te-Chu, don't be arrogant. Let me see what you're capable of. A tall and bulky old man in iron armor with horns on his head flew up and threw a punch at Jiang Tian from afar. I don't know where that old man came from. I heard that he was a famous rogue cultivator in the ruins of deities. He went to the Xianming Grotto heaven for a few hundred years and became one with the wind and thunder there. In the end, everyone called him Master Thunder Wind. The living fossils of the Northern Sea realm under the enormous golden screen let out cries of alarm, as if they had seen a ghost. Their faces were filled with fear. It's him. I heard that he once created a thunder art and turned all the thunder within a 100-mile radius into powder. Although he's only a nascent soul cultivator, he can unleash the power of a soul formation cultivator in the grotto heaven. Someone's face turned as pale as a sheet of paper after hearing that. Everyone looked up. There was no sound within a 100-mile radius around the ruins of Winterfell. There was only the sound of wind blowing and snow falling. They saw it. As Master Thunder Wind threw a punch, the world lost its color and the clouds changed. His eyes were cold, as if he were a king who ruled the world and looked down at the world with a domineering aura. Traces of the laws appeared high up in the sky of the Xianming Grotto heaven. Giant clouds with a radius of 10 miles rolled and rolled. Rain poured down in that space, as if the sea was about to collapse. Wind and thunder rumbled. Green true thunders that were as thick as buckets and looked like sky-devouring pythons condensed and poured into his fist. Then, they rushed out of the barrier and struck towards Jiang Tian. Giant thunderbolts exploded in the sky. The thunderbolts were azure and seemed to be formed by many runes. If a nascent soul heavenly lord was there, he would have recognized that they weren't normal thunderbolts, but the manifestation of Dharma laws. Any nascent soul cultivator would have to face the true thunderbolts of the Dharma laws during the tribulation. They were extremely dangerous and they were extremely powerful. At the same time, the true thunderbolts manifested by the Dharma laws were falling outside the seal. And the scale was moving towards an infinitely large direction. At first, they were only as thick as buckets, like serpents and thunder dragons. But soon, huge thunderclouds filled the sky, and thunder mountains that were thousands of meters tall came crashing down. The thunder mountains and thunder mountains were high, surrounded by countless storms and airflows. They were like giant pillars that supported the sky and the earth, crossing the two worlds. In the end, the vast and surging lightning even interweaved into an ocean of lightning that covered an area of 5 kilometers. It was extremely blazing and violent, and it enveloped the sky and was sufficient to shake the world. Ha! I told you that using the power of the grotto heaven is just a small trick. Although Jiang Tian's figure was blocked by the sea of thunder, he didn't panic. His eyes were calm, and there was no fear on his face. The 10-meter-long divine disk behind him spun in a dazzling manner. The lightning slaughter divine body erupted, the true seal rumbled, and the laws of nature spread out. As he threw a punch, there were suddenly bolts of lightning, like a river in heaven. The earth-shattering thunder divine body jumped out, it was powerful and shocking. He's going to fight thunder with thunder. Oh God! He can also control the Dharma laws of thunder. What a monster! How many Dharma laws has he mastered? Everyone exclaimed as their hearts raced and they held their breaths. That was a battle between two peerless overlords, an extremely rare top battle. It hadn't happened in the North Sea since the Battle of the Age of Tao Damage. Boom! The huge shining thunder mantis leaped out and roared towards the sky. Like a storm, it rushed into the sea of thunder and mountains and attacked with equal harshness. The thunder divine body slashed and tore a few thunder dragons and serpents as if they were pieces of paper. Many Dharma runes of thunder divine body appeared between its fingers and claws. Each of them was formed by lightning and was imprinted under the sky, which made people gasp. That was an unprecedented battle. No matter how powerful Jiang Tian was, only a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator with the power of a soul formation grand cultivator could perform such a terrifying attack. From this, it could be seen that regardless of whether it was Jiang Tian or Master Feng Lazy, their comprehension of the laws had already reached the peak of perfection, to the point that it was shocking. Clang! Boom! Lei Meng flew across the sky, his eyes filled with terrifying lightning. He was extremely ferocious and violent as he slammed into the thunder mountains one after another. A great collapse occurred between heaven and earth as the strangely shaped lightning energy tore through the sky, pierced through the earth, and pushed away the 1,000-meter-tall mountain. The earth was in chaos as rubble flew into the sky, rolling up piles of snow. In the end, Lei Meng roared and opened his mouth, which was as big as a mountain. Then, like a whale sucking in water, he swallowed the vast sea of lightning with a radius of 10 miles. No! Thunder Breeze shouted and tried to stop it with fear in his eyes, but it was too late. His energy fell from the peak stage nascent soul level to the golden core level in a blink. Half of his energy was gone in a blink. In the end, he spurted out blood and fell to the ground. His energy fluctuated like a toad. No one knew if it was because he was angry or because he had suffered a backlash. His thunder laws had merged with the grotto heaven and were originally boundless and indestructible. However, they were swallowed by Jiang Tian's thunder laws. Dharma laws were an important part of a nascent soul cultivator. His power fell rapidly after being swallowed. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. One of the 7 giants, the Lightning Wind Master, had already fallen to his limits, losing the qualifications and ability to fight against Jiang Tian. Besides, Thunder Breeze was one of the more powerful ones among the 7 magnates, much more powerful than Elder Wu. He could at least be ranked in the top 4. Only half an hour had passed since the start of the battle. One of the 7 magnates was dead and the other one was injured. Jiang Tian could be said to be invincible. At this moment, Jiang Tian put away the thunder centipede that seemed to have doubled in size. The clouds in the sky disappeared, and the thunder dispersed. Only he was left standing with his hands behind his back. He was like a peerless god of war that had descended, and no one could stop him. That scene shocked everyone. In their minds, Thunder Breeze controlled the power of wind and thunder in the grotto heaven. He could summon wind and clouds in 100 miles and create a vast sea of thunder. He wouldn't even be afraid of facing a soul formation cultivator, he was really like a superior god. And yet, he couldn't resist Jiang Tian's attack. That was unbelievable and they felt their worldview had collapsed. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. Many of the spectators had ashen faces. Although Kang Taechu was born in the desolate solar system, no one cares about where a hero comes from. With his talent and strength, he might really be able to fight with the Emperor of the Ruins. Cultivators like us have to be strong after all. Bloodlines are nothing. If we're talking about bloodlines, let's not fight. Let's just compare our ancestral tablets. This guy is domineering, talented and powerful. He's worth following. Many people thought to themselves. At the beginning, they knelt and submitted because they were forced by Jiang Tian's might and ruthless methods, and the fear in their hearts was greater than admiration. But now, admiration had gained the upper hand, and they even had the desire to follow him. Kang Taechu is so powerful. Fairy Qingshi turned pale and her heart trembled. She couldn't believe it. She had traveled to many worlds in the ruins of immortality and visited thousands of sections. She even held a position in the academy and had the opportunity to drink wine with many people. She had even discussed Tao with the headmaster and the sword god. She had seen all kinds of geniuses. And yet, she was truly shocked by Jiang Tian at that moment. Thunder Breeze had summoned the wind and thunder in the grotto heaven and borrowed the laws of heaven and earth, but he still couldn't defeat Jiang Tian. Let's attack together. Ma Rulong's face was as cold as iron and his eyes were ruthless. He shouted with a thunderous voice. Boom! Boom! The entire Xianming grotto heaven was shaking and letting out loud noises, as if it were about to collapse. Terrifying energy waves were triggered to the limit by Ma Rulong and the other overlords. Dharma laws were boiling like raging waves, emerging from the cracks of the array and blooming like a mushroom cloud. Chapter 1499. Law of Killing, Sword of Destruction. Zhou Zian's sword-like eyebrows rose as he shouted. His fingers formed a series of hand seals, and his sleeves fluttered without wind. In the end, his body trembled slightly, and as if he was lifting a mountain, he pointed at Jiang Tian. He comprehended a Tao law of this world, one that represented slaughter. It was exceptionally sharp, capable of wiping out all life. It instantly transformed into swords of annihilation. They were densely packed, numbering in the tens of thousands. Cold light flickered about as they covered the sky. This barrier had become one with them. They didn't need to activate it to form a barrier and defense. Their attacks weren't restricted at all. They could walk out of the barrier and their attacks would instantly break through the barrier. As he pointed in the air, countless dermic swords rushed out of the barrier. The sword aura was boundless and murderous, like a snow waterfall. Every sword of the law of killing could kill a golden core perfected lord easily. The slaughter Tao insight was piercingly cold and murderous, causing the clouds in the surroundings to move while sword chi and sword moves changed in a myriad of ways. Strands of killing light shot out and shattered space, and it seemed as if it intended to slice the entire heavens and the earth into countless pieces while the laws interweaved in a complicated manner. Law of merit, unparalleled merit. Immediately afterward, a white-robed, benevolent-looking, highly respected, and incomparably sacred giant let out a soft shout and attacked. Countless golden clouds rushed out of the barrier and suppressed Jiang Tian. The clouds were filled with a sacred aura. Every cloud gathered a law of merit, which represented the power of merit of the Xianming Grotto heaven in this world to get rid of evil, slay demons and protect the people. The white-robed Taoist Huang Qi's situation was very special. He entered the Tao through medicine and cultivated an unparalleled divine power. A few thousand years ago, he'd frequently descended to the Northern Ocean realm to save the dying and heal the wounded. He'd practiced medicine to help the world, and he'd traveled thousands of kilometers to heal the poor. In this world, there were countless good men and women who worshipped and supported him, and they worshipped him as a god. After he entered the Xianming Grotto heaven, he poured the merit into this world. At this moment, he was suppressing people with his past achievements. Ah! Law of withering, life withering. An old man dressed like a Taoist. He had a wrinkled skin and a crane head. His clothes were old, and his eyes were muddy and lifeless. He emitted an aura of age and decay. He coughed, and his body trembled as he walked out and waved his sleeve. Suddenly, a deathly aura burst out from the grotto heaven, turning into a long black rainbow. It was filled with an aura of decay as it flew towards Jiang Tian. Between heaven and earth, yin and yang complemented each other, and life and death were intertwined. Even the blessed enclave was no exception. And the Xianming Grotto heaven naturally needed to be nurtured into a land of exuberant vitality. If not, how could it become the ruins' emperor's residence? Therefore, they spent hundreds of years and used their great magic power to completely extract the baleful qi and death qi within 100 miles and condensed it in one place. It was this old Taoist named Zhu Mingzi who was in charge of it. And now, the deathly aura had transformed into nomological attacks, turning into long black qi rainbows. These black rainbows that contain the law of withering and death qi might seem inconspicuous, but they are in fact extremely dangerous. They are in no way inferior to the laws of merit and slaughter. Just one of them can shave off flesh and blood and corrode one's soul. Even a golden core perfected lord will die instantly if they come into contact with it. It can even cause a nascent soul heavenly lord's body to wither, their blood to decay, their essence chi to turn into pus, and their souls to be destroyed. Beneath the golden screen, there were even living fossils from the Northern Ocean pointing out in horror. With every word he said, everyone's expression turned more horrified. By the time he was done, everyone finally understood how terrifying the Xianming Grotto heaven was and what Jiang Tian was up against. It's too terrifying. The three laws have fused with the Xianming Grotto heaven. At that moment, countless people cried out tragically. How could such a peerless killing aura be resisted by mere mortals? As expected of the ruins' emperor's residence. It's truly a place set up by an expert under Prince Chiu Ming's orders. It's too terrifying. Some people were trembling in fear, their faces as pale as a sheet. No matter how powerful a nascent soul Heavenly Lord was, he could only touch the laws of heaven and earth and borrow their power. However, he couldn't fuse with the laws of heaven and earth. Even though the grotto heaven was only 100 miles wide, it was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Long Xingnan and Yao Yu fairies' faces turned pale. Their beautiful eyes were wide open as they stared fixedly at the golden screen. Clearly, they were worried for Jiang Tian. Even Wu Shujian put down the thunder flame wine and stared uneasily at Jiang Tian, who was on the giant screen, with a grim expression, waiting to see how he would deal with the situation. He knew. Even though Zhou Zian, Huang Qi, and Zhu Ming were only nascent soul heavenly lords, their attacks had borrowed the power of the grotto heaven. They were too powerful and were comparable to an attack from a soul formation cultivator. They could at least fight with Shen Chang when he was at his peak. Even the thousands of disciples in the grotto heaven, who were all golden core cultivators, attacked at the same time and attacked Jiang Tian. It could be said that when they saw this peerless killing situation, among the many spectators, other than Ghost Wolf who still maintained his confidence in Jiang Tian, not many people thought that Jiang Tian could win. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian raised his eyes and looked at the waterfall-like sword aura, the sun-piercing black rainbows, the golden clouds, the mighty nether wind, the surging cold waves, and the snowstorm that was like a giant dragon flying across the sky. He said with a sneer, "I've said it again and again. You can't suppress me with the power of heaven and earth. Even if heaven and earth has the wisdom of the Grand Tao, it won't work either." Jiang Tian raised his sword-like eyebrows. His eyes flashed with a ruthless and cold light. His black hair fluttered like a waterfall, and his fighting spirit rose like a huge wave. He said, "Unless a soul formation grand cultivator comes and fights with me. Otherwise, you won't be able to defeat me even if you have thousands of divine powers and endless cultivation arts. I've given you a chance, but you're still stubborn. You've exhausted my patience. Fine, I'll send you to hell." At this moment, all the cultivators in the Baiming Sea were looking at Jiang Tian, including Ma Rulong and Fairy Qingshi in the grotto heaven. They wanted to see how Jiang Tian would destroy the three Dharma laws. Swish! Jiang Tian reached out his jade-white right hand that looked like it was carved out of immortal jade and was longer than a young girl's. He tapped the air. There wasn't a trace of energy in that finger. It was light and gentle, like a girl touching her lover's forehead. There wasn't the slightest fluctuation in heaven and earth, not even a wisp of abnormal phenomena. The hell wind was still howling, the cold waves were still surging and the snowstorm was still whistling. The Xianming grotto heaven behind the barrier became more and more ethereal. None of this had changed at all. That's it. Everyone was confused. Everything in front of them was different from what they had expected. Had Kang Taechu used up all his energy and couldn't fight back at all? He's out of tricks. 3 types of vast laws, who could resist and restrain them? Kang Taechu has mastered more than one Dharma law, but he might not be able to deal with them. Ma Rulong observed for a while and suddenly sneered. "If you can't do it, then you'll have to face our merciless slaughter. I hope he doesn't kill himself. He's extremely talented. If Prince Chiu Fan can recruit him, he'll achieve great things." At this moment, even Fairy Qingshi heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. Her tense body slowly relaxed as she thought the crisis was over. "Ha, I thought it was some peerless divine power. It's just a bluff. It's not working, Jiang Taichu is not working." Elder AI, who was short and had the lowest level of cultivation, even laughed and rolled on the stairs. At this moment, even Long Xingnan and Fairy Yao Yu looked doubtful. Could it be that Senior Tai Chu's divine power was suppressed by the 3 Dharma laws? Was that why it didn't cause any abnormal phenomena? While everyone was laughing and doubting, Ma Rulong's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle and he exclaimed, "What's that?" "Finger of Unity." At this moment, Jiang Tian retracted his finger, covered his hands in his sleeves, and lightly spat out 4 words. When the crowd heard those words, they were still confused when they saw a shocking scene. Chapter 1500. Bang! He saw an incomparably deep black vortex suddenly appear amidst the endless waterfall-like sword light, the sun-piercing black rainbows, the golden clouds, the mighty nether wind, the surging cold waves, and the snowstorm that was like a giant pillar that held up the sky and a snow dragon that soared through the sky. The vortex was so deep that it was like the most terrifying black hole in the depths of the universe. It was as if one's divine soul and body would be swallowed just by looking at it. Even the fastest immortal light would fall into it and be unable to extricate itself. Subsequently, countless swords of the laws of slaughter collapsed in unison, and they transformed into chaotic pieces that collapsed into shapeless pieces that fluttered about like butterflies that covered the sky. After that, they transformed into chaotic talisman markings that surged towards the black hole like strands of muddy heavenly rivers that flowed in reverse. At practically the exact same moment, the expanse of golden virtue clouds that were suffused with a divine and eternal aura and were heavier than a myriad of mountains emanated clear cracking sounds as they were torn into pieces like pieces of scrap paper, and then they fell into the deep vortex. In the end, even the black rainbows that represented the laws of death, loneliness, and decay that pierced through the world collapsed and surged toward the black vortex. At that moment, the world was turned upside down, the sun and the moon collapsed, and the world was in chaos. The three laws of slaughter, the dark wind, and the cold waves were all torn into pieces by the vortex of the Taotia's return to the origin. Even a 1,000-meter-wide hole was forcefully torn open in the barrier. The swallowing power of the Taotia's return to the origin was too terrifying. It seemed to be able to swallow the world and the universe as if it were going to swallow everything. The Xianming grotto heaven kept shaking as if it was about to collapse. The laws contained within the connection between heaven and man let out sorrowful cries with fear and anger. The divine garden that was surrounded by countless spiritual qi and essence qi was like rain. Spirit birds were flying in the sky, and auspicious beasts were running. Although it immediately released countless runes, it was useless. The exquisite pavilions were torn into pieces, and the magnificent palaces were uprooted from the ground and flew toward the vortex. They were almost razed to the ground in an instant. Only the lake and river that filled the mysterious underworld cold spring were not sucked away. The ancient lotuses on the 12 lotus platforms were like sea-stabilizing needles that didn't move at all. The profound nether grotto heaven was protected by a barrier and a ray formation. It was surrounded by nomological laws, so the situation was slightly better. What was even more terrifying was the changes within a 50-kilometer radius of the profound nether grotto heaven. The boundless lofty glaciers were over 3 kilometers tall, and they seemed to have been swept by an invisible sword, causing them to break apart at the roots and soar into the sky. On the ground, it was as if it had been turned over by an ancient god with a huge plow. Huge cracks of dozens of miles and hundreds of miles were carved out, like the Great Rift Valley of East Africa. At that moment, the entire northern sea was deathly silent. Not a single sound could be heard in an area of hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Countless cultivators and mortals were speechless. Countless cultivators watched this scene with their mouths agape. They were as silent as cicadas in winter. They felt as if their worldview had been turned upside down and their world had completely collapsed. How is this possible? Inside the grotto heaven, Zhou Zian, Daoist Huang Qi, and Zhu Mingzi exclaimed in shock. Their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets as if they had just seen a primordial demon. After a while, Marulong staggered and almost fell down from the high ground. Fairy Qingshi's eyes were wide open, filled with fear and disbelief. The three nomological laws were extremely powerful and each had their own strengths. They were connected to the grotto heaven and their power was endless. Moreover, they had different attributes and were extremely difficult to suppress. And yet, they couldn't resist Jiang Tian's finger attack. That finger attack had even torn the barrier of the profound nether grotto heaven. It wreaked havoc inside the grotto heaven and destroyed many arrays. It was a complete mess. Evil. Evil. Terrifying. The grotto heaven is about to collapse. I surrender. I don't want to fight anymore. Elder Ai screamed in fear. Tears and snot were running down his face. He ran around like a headless fly, trying to escape from the terrifying devouring power. Not only were the giants of the profound nether grotto heaven unable to believe it. Many disciples in the grotto heaven and countless cultivators in the North Sea realm who were watching the battle, especially the leaders of the major sects, couldn't believe it. They didn't want to believe it either. Even the profound nether grotto heaven had been torn apart by Jiang Tian's finger attack. The protective arrays of the sects, families, and cities in the North Sea realm were even more vulnerable. If Jiang Tian wanted to destroy their sects and dojos, he only needed to stretch out a finger and everything would be destroyed. It was as easy as crushing an ant. That's the perplexing finger. It's comparable to the Great Tao. Kang Te-chu is just a golden core cultivator. How can he use it? Marulong screamed in the grotto heaven. His voice was so penetrating that even Jiang Tian, who was 100 miles away, could hear it clearly. The perplexing finger. The cultivators in the North Sea realm also heard it through the giant golden screens. They were all confused. Apparently, they had never heard of it before. The so-called perplexing finger refers to a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator or even a half-soul formation cultivator. They have comprehended and touched countless Dharma laws. They have already melted the high-level Dharma laws into their bodies and have peeked into the great Tao of heaven and earth. It's infinitely close to being used by a real soul formation cultivator. By then, they have already comprehended the great Tao and resonated with the great Tao of heaven and earth, making an attack that follows the great Tao. Seeing the confused looks on everyone's faces, Ghost Wolf proudly explained. This attack follows the great Tao and reaches the soul formation level. Although it's not as powerful as an attack from a grand cultivator, it's still extremely terrifying. It's not something a nascent soul cultivator can resist. That's why it's also called the perplexing attack. The profound nether world is a small grotto heaven that fell from the depths of the universe. It's protected and strengthened by countless natural Dharma laws. Those Dharma laws aren't created by cultivators. Only soul formation overlords can destroy them. Senior Tai Chu broke it with a finger. What else could it be if not the perplexing finger? After hearing what Ghost Wolf said, everyone was stunned and remained silent for a long time. Countless golden core perfected cultivators looked pale and didn't want to believe it. They were all golden core cultivators or nascent soul cultivators, but why was there such a huge difference? If they went to the profound nether grotto heaven, they wouldn't even be able to resist the most common cold wind, let alone break the enchantment and break the inside of the grotto heaven. He's only a golden core cultivator, but he can already see the great Tao of the soul formation level. If he becomes a nascent soul cultivator one day, won't killing soul formation cultivators be as easy as killing chickens and dogs? Fairy Qingshi mumbled to herself in a daze. Her beautiful face, which had always been as calm as water, was now filled with fear and shock. Cold sweat covered her forehead. Even though Jiang Tian could unleash many Dharma laws and even perform forbidden regions, he was only a golden core cultivator or a nascent soul cultivator, which couldn't escape the eyes of Fairy Qingshi and the others. A golden core perfected cultivator was able to see the truth of the soul formation level and perform an attack at the Grand Tao level. That was too terrifying, even more terrifying than killing a half-soul formation cultivator. After all, the battlefield was constantly changing. Many cultivators relied on their rich battle experience, ingenious killing techniques or ambushes to kill people at a higher level. And Jiang Tian was showing his real strength at the moment. Chapter 1501. Although Ma Rulong was unwilling to believe it, he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. He wanted to retreat as he shouted, "Fellow Taoists, retreat quickly and save your own lives. We can't stop him." At that moment, a huge golden screen appeared 10,000 feet above the Winterfell ruins. Ghost Wolf had set up a surveillance Dharma artifact inside the Xianming Grotto Heaven. It was now open. "Everyone, it's time for the pinnacle duel. I dare say that in less than 5 minutes, Kang Te-chu will destroy the Xianming Grotto Heaven. No one can stop him." Ghost Wolf cackled strangely as he played with the Void Piercer. His words made everyone in the Dark North shudder. "But if the Ruins Emperor blames us, in the grotto heaven, Zhou Ziyan was still hesitating when he heard Ma Rulong's transmission. Jiang Tian had already retracted the Taoyue's regression law and transformed into a stream of light as he slammed into the grotto heaven's barrier. The 30-foot divine disk behind him was dazzling as it spun rapidly. Like a gear, it tore through the grotto heaven's barrier that had yet to completely close. Jiang Tian was like an ancient divine arrow that tore through the heavens as he shot into the Xianming grotto heaven. In fact, be it Ma Rulong or Ghost Wolf, their guesses about the pericelestial strike were wrong. Jiang Tian was only a golden core after all. He had yet to reach the nascent soul stage. Condensing a true seal and striking out nomological laws was already the limit. He was extremely lucky and had obtained many treasures to successfully form his nascent soul. However, he was still only a peak-stage golden core. He could not cross the nascent soul and soul formation realms to deliver a soul formation strike. However, although Ma Rulong and Ghost Wolf's guesses were not accurate, they were not far off. Jiang Tian was limited by his cultivation realm and could not deliver a soul formation strike. However, his understanding of nomological laws and great Tao far exceeded that of ordinary people. His Taoyue's regression law was the supreme divine-level nomological law in the universe. It far surpassed the nomological laws of ordinary peak-stage nascent soul or half-step soul formation cultivators. Seeing Jiang Tian step through the air, Zhou Ziyan was shocked. More than half of his grotto heaven's killing nomological laws had been devoured by Jiang Tian. Naturally, his combat strength had dropped. How could he fight him? Kang Teichu, stop here. I will plead for mercy on your behalf in front of Prince Chiu Ming. He will forgive you for barging into the ruins Emperor's residence and offending the heavens. As he fled in a sorry state, he flew towards a secret teleportation array in the grotto heaven. At the same time, he released countless killing sword chis that shot towards Jiang Tian. At the same time, he crushed 4 or 5 array pestles in a row, and the restrictions and formations set up all over the grotto heaven instantly exploded. Wind, lightning, earth, and fire surged, dark winds and cold waves whistled, sharp arrows and spears densely packed together, and vast might strangled towards Jiang Tian from all directions. Kill! Jiang Tian remained unmoved. His expression was cold and hard like iron, and his eyes emitted a merciless and cold light. His sword soared into the sky, and it tore through the sky as it slashed towards Zhou Ziyan. From the moment the Xianming Grotto Heavens group did not open the gates or disperse the enchantment, Jiang Tian had already sentenced them to death in his heart. At that moment, Jiang Tian already had the upper hand. Regardless of whether they threatened him or begged for mercy, he would definitely kill them. Nothing could stop him. Furthermore, if he did not kill them, how was he to intimidate the Northern Sea and other worlds? He would make those old foxes who had yet to die listen to Kang Teichu's orders. Jiang Tian did not use absolute heaven sword, but an ordinary flying sword. It was even of a very low grade, but it hummed loudly. Sword chi was in thousands of layers, and every layer was like a raging sea with towering waves. It was peerlessly sharp and unstoppable. The boundless sword chi was accompanied by the rumbling and howling of laws. Chi law. The forces of countless restrictions and formations, as well as Zhou Ziyan's killing dermic swords, were instantly cleaved apart by Jiang Tian's flying sword. It was like a wave being split apart by a torpedo. It failed to provide any form of resistance. In just a snap of a finger, Jiang Tian's flying sword instantly penetrated Zhou Ziyan's head. Bang! Zhou Ziyan's head exploded like a smashed watermelon. Red and white matter splattered in all directions. His skull, which was as translucent as celestial jade, scattered in all directions. His headless corpse spurted out waves of blood that dyed the sky red as it fell to the ground. A miniature person flew out from Zhou Ziyan's head. It had the same features as him. It was his nascent soul. The nascent soul's face was filled with horror and resentment. He gritted his teeth and pinched his fingers, turning into a flying sword. However, it had only flown a few dozen meters away before it was crushed by the rolling sword rays. It had completely died. Jiang Tian didn't stop and charged towards Ma Rulong, who was half a step into the divine transformation stage. As for the power of the formation, Jiang Tian didn't care about it at all. The 3-meter-long divine disc rotated and a vast amount of true yuan spread out in all directions, instantly shattering the formation. The flying sword didn't stop either. It circled around in the air and slashed towards Taoist Huang Qi like lightning. Taoist Huang Qi was scared out of his wits. Since the teleportation formation was far away, he directly gave up on using it and rushed towards the top of the grotto heaven, trying to break out. The flying sword rushed into the heavens and emitted a loud rumbling sound. It drew out spatial fluctuations and formed a long tail of turbulence. It pierced through an enormous meteorite with a radius of 10 li. That was the artificial moon of the mysterious underworld grotto, an energy meteorite extracted from the depths of the cosmos. Today, it had been shattered by a single sword strike. Taoist Huang Qi did not manage to dodge and was killed by the sword. Senior Tai Chu, please spare my life. The last death-defying cultivator was so scared that his legs trembled. His face was pale as he begged for mercy and was about to escape. Jiang Tian just waved his sleeve and the gung metal block array smashed down like a mountain, directly crushing him into a meat patty. He turned into a cloud of blood mist that filled the air. In an instant, his body and soul were destroyed. After killing the 3 giants, there were even a few disciples of the grotto heaven who secretly released flying swords to kill Jiang Tian. Some of them used the previous arrangements to activate the formations and restrictions to launch a sneak attack. Although the flying swords and restrictions were still 1 mile away from Jiang Tian, they were still shattered by Jiang Tian's majestic Dharma power and could not pose any threat to him. They still angered Jiang Tian. I didn't want to bother with you ants and cockroaches, but you just had to court death. Fine, I'll send all of you to heaven. Jiang Tian patted the sky-devouring demonic gourd and thousands of flying swords shot out like a storm of locusts. They intertwined into a sword net and fell from the sky, killing everyone in sight. Immediately, blood flowed like a river. Sword chi rushed into the sky and heads rolled down. There were only a few hundred disciples of the grotto heaven. How could they resist Jiang Tian's peerless killing? This was an indiscriminate attack that could make the entire grotto heaven full of holes. Heavenly Lord, please spare my life. I didn't attack just now. Senior Tai Chu, I'm willing to surrender. I'll take you to the treasury of the grotto heaven. Kang Tai Chu, you're cruel and vicious. You've violated the laws of heaven. You'll suffer retribution in the future. Many disciples and elders of the Xianming grotto heaven either begged for mercy, cried or cursed. But Jiang Tian didn't care at all. The vast ocean of swords swept the earth and the sword chi whistled in the sky. Galaxy crystal sand flew out from time to time, smashing peak stage golden core cultivators into meat paste, leaving nothing behind. Elder AI, who was screaming in fear, was pierced by a dozen flying swords when he was 10 miles away from the grotto heaven's array formation. After 3 flicks of the fingers, many elders and disciples of the Xianming grotto heaven were killed. Chapter 1502. All the cultivators around the ruins of Winterfell were dumbfounded when they saw this scene through the golden screen. They were scared out of their wits as they lay on the ground, trembling. After a few seconds, one of the elders suddenly said in a trembling voice, "Now, only Ma Rulong and Fairy Qingshi are left, right? It's too terrifying. This combat strength, the Taichu Heaven Lord is invincible." Someone suddenly shouted. Then, everyone quivered and reacted. They shouted in unison that the Taichu Heaven Lord was invincible and completely submitted to him. They no longer had any thoughts of resistance. Kang Taichu, you destroyed my foundation and ruined my achievements. You made it impossible for me to answer to Prince Chiu Ming and the ruins Emperor's palace. I will kill you one day. At that moment, Ma Rulong had already flown to a dimensional passageway. He scanned it with his divine sense and his expression changed drastically. He gritted his teeth in hatred. The dimensional passageway was already open. Space rippled. In just a second, he would be able to pass through the dimensional passageway and fly above the Hylon world, breaking away from Jiang Tian. But at that moment, a cold voice sounded. It was Jiang Tian who had already arrived. Marulong, you don't know that bad people die because they talk too much. If you want it, hurry up and run. Why are you still chattering over there? He slashed his sword across the sky and destroyed the dimensional passageway. This kind of dimensional passageway was strengthened by bloodline imprints. Cultivators who had not been verified by bloodline imprints could not pass through it. Moreover, it was engraved with self-destruction runes. It was much more advanced than the creation gate that Jiang Tian had encountered in the West Earth world. Jiang Tian scanned it with his divine sense and knew that he could not modify or use it. He simply destroyed it with his sword. Kang Teichu, you. Marulong's expression changed. He stepped out of the billowing airwaves and debris and shouted angrily. I am a half-step soul formation cultivator. Moreover, the most important dark underworld law in this grotto heaven is controlled by me. My strength is not something that Shin Chang, the captain of the Golden Crow Guards, can compare to. If you insist on fighting, I may not necessarily lose to you. Jiang Tian had destroyed the teleportation gate, so he could only stay in this world and face Jiang Tian directly. Unless he knelt down and begged for mercy, he could not avoid this battle. Even if he admitted defeat and surrendered, Jiang Tian would not let him go. Jiang Tian's actions were brimming with confidence and even arrogance. It was obvious that he didn't put Marulong in his eyes, which made him burn with anger. Then let's fight. Jiang Tian chuckled, his face full of contempt. You asked for it. Marulong's expression changed a few times. In the end, his face became as cold as steel and his eyes were filled with determination. He performed the righteous steps and formed a series of hand seals, completely activating the most important law of this grotto heaven, the dark underworld cold spring. At that moment, the huge, golden screen that monitored the interior of the Xianming paradise became chaotic. The world became gloomy and gloomy as endless waves of Xianming coldness surged. The black streaks of light formed from the laws were like grayish-black winds that had been blown out of hell. They roared as they turned into dragons that coiled around Jiang Tian and tried to devour him. Everyone could only see it through the surveillance cameras outside. At that moment, the grotto heaven within 100-mile radius shook crazily and let out a rumbling sound, like thunder or an earthquake. It was as if the grotto heaven had a life of its own and had come back to life in an instant. It used all its strength and seemed to be exhausted. The aftermath of the fight between Jiang Tian and Marulong had only passed through a few gaps in the barrier, but it had already torn half of the sky apart. Numerous cracks had appeared in the area within a radius of 500 miles. Countless huge avalanches had occurred. Countless savage beasts and ferocious birds that didn't manage to retreat in time had been shaken into a blood mist. Even the cultivators who were watching nearby, including Golden Core perfected cultivators, were crushed into pieces. They couldn't withstand the shockwaves that had already been limited and weakened. At the end of the battle, the cold waves of the Xianming law disappeared and the Yin dragons cried. Suddenly, everyone saw a sword aura that seemed to be able to destroy the world suddenly erupt. It was extremely cold and became brighter, as if it were going to illuminate the entire grotto heaven. Then, 100-mile giant hole suddenly appeared on the array barrier of the grotto heaven. It was like a balloon that had been cut in half by Jiang Tian's heaven-extinguishing sword. The grotto heaven that had lost the support of the array barrier started to collapse uncontrollably and countless dimensional storms swept over. In the chaos, everyone vaguely saw Marulong's Dharma body as tall as a mountain shatter. The top of his head was cut off and a giant nascent soul exploded. On the other hand, Jiang Tian's black robe was not tainted by a speck of dust. He was completely unscathed and even had the energy to spare. Holding the absolute heaven sword that was dripping with blood, he was like a peerless god of war. Then, Jiang Tian patted the sky-swallowing demonic gourd on his waist and waved his sleeves. The entire Xianming cold spring and the ancient lotus in it, together with Fairy Qingshi who had fainted, turned into a beam of golden light again and rushed out of the platform and the garden. He jumped into the sky and headed straight for the snow god palace in the northwest. Boom! As soon as Jiang Tian left, the entire Xianming grotto heaven collapsed completely. The Dharma laws of this world had almost been extracted by Jiang Tian and there was no longer any support. The bodies of the elders and disciples were completely swallowed by the dimensional storms and crushed into a bloody mist. A quarter of an hour later, Jiang Tian stepped into the gate of the snow god palace and threw Fairy Qingshi, who had just woken up, on the ground. I heard that Prince Chiu Ming of the Ruins Emperor's Palace values you a lot. I can use you as a hostage. I won't kill you for now, but I'll spare your lowly life. The next moment, Jiang Tian ignored Fairy Qingshi, who was so embarrassed and scared that her face turned pale. He looked down at the gate of the snow god palace and said coldly, Kang Te-chu is here to destroy your sect. Jiang Tian also pointed his finger and destroyed the gate of the snow god palace, killing many of its disciples. No matter how the palace master of the snow god palace begged for mercy, Jiang Tian didn't care at all. This sect had once provided material support to Prince Chiu Ming of the Ruins Emperor's Palace and the 3 guards of the Golden Crow, so Jiang Tian certainly wouldn't forgive them. Thousands of flying swords shot across the sky. Heads rolled and blood flowed like rivers. After 10 seconds, none of the 3,000 disciples escaped and were all killed. Half an hour later, Jiang Tian destroyed the Saber Emperor's palace and the Saber Emperor's lineage. An hour later, Jiang Tian fought 30,000 miles and arrived at the Dusk Cloud sect. He attacked coldly and mercilessly, killing 5,000 disciples and destroying the sect. 8 hours later, Jiang Tian flew above the ruins of Winterfell again and threw down the heads of the Golden Core perfected cultivators of the 6 sects and cities that had surrendered to the Ruins Emperor's palace. The cultivators of the North Sea are impressed by the power of the Heavenly Lord. The cultivators and mortals of the North Sea welcomed the Taichu Heavenly Lord into the North Sea. Many sect masters, city lords and elders of the North Sea were scared out of their wits.